Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of August 24th. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to start off this meeting, as we often do, with a presentation. This one, as they all are particularly important to give us an update from the Rhode Island Bridge and Turnpike Authority to talk to us about what's going on with the Mount Hope Bridge, where it is today and where we're going tomorrow. Buddy Croft is here, and Eric Orphenberg, am I saying that correct? Well, no, correct me here. Offenberg. Thank you. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you, Councilman, Council President. Thank you, members of the Council. We were appreciative to be able to spend some time with you and talk about some of the construction projects that will be coming up in the Mount Hope Bridge in the fall, the end of September, early October. It's two phases. In order to keep that bridge safe and in order to maintain it, we need to do some work on it. So one phase, we have to, on the Portsmouth side, there's about 100 feet of the deck that needs to be replaced. Our plan is to do that over a 2-3 week period. It will involve night work. It will involve we're going to saw cut during the day, jackhammer at night, and bring in 12 by 13 foot pieces of concrete, put them in place. We need to do it in a night time frame. If we were to do that during a day, to pour the concrete, it'll take hours and hours and hours to cure. So this is, we think, is the most prudent approach. The other project that Eric will talk about is there has to be steel and painting work done. There's going to be other work done on the deck, but the 3 week period, 2-3 week period will be the more significant. Eric will elaborate on it in a minute. There will be anywhere from 20 months to up to 30 months possibly of steel and painting from the cable bent on the Portsmouth side down. There will clearly be challenges with traffic. We're going to talk about our plans. Basically, Eric will talk a little bit about what we're going to do, why we need to do it, and how we're going to move forward. One thing that I want to tell the council members and the members of the public that are here, this is the first step in a journey of informational type, disseminating the information to the users. We have thought long and hard about how to do it, the times of day to do it. We think this is the best approach. I had an occasion to chat with some members of the council, and I had an occasion, some of your state delegation. I saw Senator Pagliarini. I see Senator Felag. I talked to Representative Marshall. One thing that everyone suggested to us, please keep the public informed. Come to the council meeting, inform the public. We put out press releases. We did it through social media to let everyone know about this meeting and the meeting at Portsmouth on Monday evening. This is the first step in a journey of keeping the public informed. We'll have a very interactive website. There'll be message boards. We're going to have the police direct traffic. We have never done that before. We've had them assist. This time they're definitely going to they're going to direct traffic with our flaggers. Most of the work is on the Portsmouth side. Portsmouth police are going to direct traffic, and Bristol has been kind enough to act as backup, and I'm sure there's going to be Bristol police officers involved. That's not going to be an expense of the town. That'll be on our dime. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric. He'll get into specifics. We'll be happy to answer any and all questions from the council, or if you prefer, members of the public, or we can chat with them informally. So, Eric?
Once again, my name's Eric Offenberg. I'm the Director of Engineering at the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority. And what I want to do is just give you a minute or two background on the Mount Hope Bridge. Everybody's very aware of the structure, but it is a national icon. The bridge was finished and opened in 1929, so we're coming up on 90 years of service for the bridge. Some unknown facts maybe to some of the people here is when that bridge was built, it was the longest suspension bridge in New England. It was also the very first time color was used in a bridge. The engineer, Steinman, is very famous for thinking outside of the box. And so when you look at the Mount Hope Bridge, it won a national award in 1939. It was the first time that they used color. First time they had the lighting on the bridge. So it really is an integral part of the fabric of Rhode Island. I hope everybody has had a chance, if they've driven over the bridge, to see the recent renovation we've done to the Mount Hope House. So the white building in Bristol on the north side of the bridge is tied in as part of the National Register for the Mount Hope Bridge. So, we want to make sure that everybody realizes how proud the Turnpike and Bridge Authority is of the buildings of the bridge. And, we are a good partner to the towns, to the state. One thing that you will always see is that we are always keeping an eye on the bridge. We do our inspections. We do the work, a lot of times to the complaints of the general public, but we want to keep that bridge open. It's 90 years old. It does not meet any of the modern-day bridge criteria, yet it's one of the safest bridges in the state of Rhode Island right now. And that's because we do the work. We work with you guys to make sure that we keep that in good shape. So I've got a series of slides over here that I want to go through. The first one we just kind of went through is the history of the Mount Hope Bridge. I think recently everybody may be aware that we just passed a 10-year plan. $223 million for a 10-year plan. And on that plan, we have about $50 million that we're going to be spending just on the Mount Hope Bridge alone in the next 10 years. What I want to talk about tonight are two of the main projects that we'll be working on. The first project that we're going to be working on is the painting and steel repair for the south approach. You may remember that about 4 years ago, we did the north approach, or the Bristol side. And what that entailed was blasting all of the paint off of the bridge, getting rid of all the old lead paint. When the bridge is blasted, then we go through and we do steel repairs. So this bridge was built in 1929. As I've said, it's got rivets. We now replace some of those rivets with bolts. Anywhere that you see some deformation in the steel, or if we see any cracking in the steel, we go and replace the bad portions, or we augment that with modern steel to make sure that we bring it up to today's code. And then we do a painting system. Now, the biggest part with painting any bridge is something that we call containment. And you've seen it on a lot of the bridges. When you blast, you have to be able to keep all of that dust and debris contained. So we put a deck underneath the bridge, and we put tarps all over the bridge. This project is out to bid now. We're expecting bids in. Actually, we got the bids in. We got 5 qualified bids yesterday, and we'll be selecting the contractor in the next 2 weeks. The work for him, not on the painting portion, but mobilization and setting up this containment, will be starting this fall. This project is going to last 24 to 30 months. The nice thing about the painting is once they've got everything set up, they need very little lane closures. They'll do daily drop-offs for materials, to change out the porta potties, things like that. But most of the work you won't see because it's really on the steel beneath the bridge, or it's on the steel girders up along the bridge, but there'll be concrete barriers separating them from the roadway, and it'll be under containment, so you'll never really see that work. But it does take a while. The setup for the bridge, the offices and all the employees of the painting contractor will be at our facility down at Roger Williams University, right underneath the bridge. There's a yard there that we've used for 30 or 40 years on these projects. They'll be based there. All of the painting equipment, because it's the southern approach that we're doing, or the Portsmouth side, is going to be located underneath the bridge on the Portsmouth side. So the blasting equipment, the painting equipment, the vacuum equipment will all be located on that side of the bridge. So along with the painting project, we are going to do some concrete work, as Buddy alluded to. And with the concrete work, we're going to be repairing some of the potholes that you see on the road. We're going to be doing a lot of the concrete sidewalk. We have the anchorages, which are the big concrete masses underneath the bridge that hold the cables up. We've got some spall repair that we have to do on those, as well as the approaches to the bridge. As Buddy mentioned, the southern approach, which is the area not on the bridge, it's between the abutment and where the roadway starts, we did a repair to that back in 2006. That repair is gone. The concrete underneath it has totally disappeared, so we need to rebuild that. Our first option, and the most affordable option, was to pour the concrete in place. Everybody realizes when you're pouring concrete, it takes days and days to cure. That would mean we have long-term lane closures for days and weeks on end. An innovative approach that we're taking for the first time as the authority on this is we're going to use precast panels to do that work. The panels will be coming out of upstate New York. They get delivered here. We're able to take one section at a time. We'll be doing that work at night. We remove the blacktop that's there. We clean it. We put a panel in place. It's open to traffic the next morning at 5:30. So we're really looking at ways to minimize the impacts. The other interesting thing we're doing, I don't know if anybody remembers back to 1984 when the deck of the Mount Hope Bridge was redone. The bridge was closed for over 4 months. We are doing another decking project 5 years from now. So that will be at approximately 35 years life, which is well past the life that we expect on a deck. So what we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be doing 6 experimental panels along the bridge. And the idea here is we want to test the best products that are in their market right now. We want to see which ones will last. We'll do a 5-year test period, and then we'll choose the right product that we'll use to redo the deck with. So we're going to be doing those 6 test panels. As I mentioned, we're going to be repairing the potholes. We're going to be working on the sidewalks. And there's a potential that next year we'll even do the Bristol side of the approach. It all depends on the contractor's timing. Now, all of that work does take lane closures to happen. That's in the traveled way. Mount Hope Bridge is a 2-lane bridge, 1 lane in each direction. So no matter when we do work on the bridge, we have to have a lane closure. So you will see lane closures over the next 2 years as part of that project. There's going to be quite a bit of work that's going to happen this fall. Now, looking at those 2 projects, we spent a lot of time trying to come up with some mitigation measures for the construction projects that are going to happen. And first and foremost, we've really adjusted some of the hours. We've always had it such that we do not have lane closures between 6 and 9 a.m. or 3 and 6 p.m. So there'll be no lane closures during that time for work. But we will work between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., and we will also try and do some of the work, as we alluded to earlier, the deck part of it, at night. And we'll be looking to do some pothole work and some sidewalk work at nighttime to mitigate some of those traffic concerns. As Buddy mentioned, the second thing that we're doing is we're working with the local police departments. The majority of the work is going to be on the Portsmouth side. We've had some meetings with Bristol, with Portsmouth, with the state police over the past 5 or 6 months just gearing up for this project. And as soon as the contractors are selected, one of the first things we'll do is we'll set up meetings again with the local police departments and state police so we can really look at fine-tuning the procedures that are going to go into place. But the police will be managing the traffic. Our contractors will supply the flaggers. We are going to be putting virtual message machines out there. You will start to see next week a VMS sign on the Bristol side and one on the Portsmouth side saying bridge work starting late September. We're really trying to give the motoring public some advance notice. The other thing that we're doing is if anybody goes to our website, www.ritba.org, we have a daily update of the traffic. So you'll be able to see what the lane closures are. There's more news that's coming out of our website. We're making special arrangements for this upcoming construction season, and we'll have a major announcement probably within the next 2 weeks, but it's really geared towards helping the motoring public understand what we're doing and when we're going to be out there. So those are the big 2 projects. There's going to be a lot of work over the next 10 years, but for 2 years at a minimum, we have these intensive projects that are going to be done by outside contractors. Now, the other thing I want to do is just inform you that there's also some work that we do in-house. One of the things that has to happen on the Mount Hope Bridge is, believe it or not, we wash it. We clean the bridge in the spring to make sure that we get all the winter salt off it, all the salt there. We're investing a lot of money in painting that bridge. We want that paint to last, so we have to clean it. That's a 3 to 4 week project. And we do that with our under-bridge inspection unit, or a snooper truck. I think some of you may have seen it out there. And we actually put them with pressure washers and hoses, and they go out there. I have to do that with lane closures. Once again, it'll follow the time frames, but we'll be doing that work. We do mandatory inspections. The federal government requires that we inspect that bridge every 2 years. We started that inspection about 2 weeks ago. We'll be finishing that next week. We have dates that are set in stone that we have to get those inspections done by. So that is something that also has to happen with this snooper truck, so we do have to have lane closures. We sweep the bridge. We do that every 2 weeks. We do that at night, but that is an activity that we constantly do. Now, why do we do all these things? Because we want to make sure that that bridge is there for another 90 years. So this routine maintenance that wasn't always done in the past, we're now doing on a consistent basis. So you'll see us out there a little bit more, and people may say, wow, there seems to be a lot more activity. It's really concentrating on making sure that we can accomplish that. So the big takeaway here, we have 2 major contracts that are out to bid right now. Both of those projects will start this September. We also have our ongoing activities that'll go right through, this entire 10-year period. Final thing that I want to talk about for mitigation is, for the first time ever, the contractors, on those 2 major contractors, we have told them that they cannot have lane closures in the summer season. They are not allowed to have lane closures on any holiday, and on the day before a holiday and the day after a holiday. The July 4th week, they are not allowed to have lane closures for 3 days prior to July 4th. So we're making an effort. We've worked with Roger Williams University. They're not allowed to have lane closures on commencement, on homecoming, on move-in days. So we're really trying to work with the community, be very conscientious about how we do the lane closures. We don't take them lightly. Every day, it doesn't matter what time it is, we back up traffic because it's a 2-lane bridge. We have to do the work. We know you all understand that we have to do that, and we're proud to do that to keep the bridge in such great condition. But we're really working to try and minimize any impacts to you. So that's the general plan. I wanted to give you guys a quick update, and Buddy and I are here and happy to answer any questions from you or the public.
Halsey.
I'd like to add 3 items to your history and then ask you 2 questions. You mentioned that the bridge opened in 1929, but people also would be interested to know it opened on the same day as Black Monday when the stock market crashed.
Correct?
And prior to that, I heard from my father what had happened. The bridge got pretty much built, and my father, who was working at the Harrisoft Boat Company, said every now and then they heard this huge bang, which was like a cannon going off. And the reason for that was they had come up with a brand new steel, very hard and very high tension. But like so often, when you make something very hard, it is brittle. And so these cables were actually breaking under load, which was a good thing because it happened before the bridge was finished. But they had to take some of it apart, replace all the cables, and made the company go bankrupt. And the third thing is, during World War II, when there was gas rationing, but a lot of workers in Newport and Bristol, there was a lot of traffic across the bridge. And Mr. Heffenhofer, who had bought the bridge shortly before the war, charged $1 a trip, which would be like charging $25 today. So it was a very profitable bridge for a period of time. And then he sold it to the state. So I'd like to comment. I was quite cognizant of that replacement of the deck in '84. In fact, Bristol had to dispose of the old decking. And I'm very critical of it because it didn't last long at all. And ever since, a great deal of money has been spent in fixing holes in it over and over and over again. So I think the idea of maybe trying to make the whole deck out of precast factory-made concrete pieces might be much better than what they did.
And it's actually one of the things we're exploring. That's why we're doing these 6 test panels, so that we can figure out what the best product is. And you also have to remember, back in the day, the deck life would have been a 20 or 25 year life. So we're at 32 years now, And a lot of what you've seen, similar to the Newport Bridge, we're doing a lot of patching, a lot of pothole repairs, because our decks are beyond what we call their useful life. So we've been able to extend that life longer than it was originally designed for. It doesn't make anybody feel anybody. We still need to go and replace that again, but we are trying to do the investigation to make sure at the time when we do the deck again that we are picking the best product.
Well, I have one more question. It concerns the painting. Those of us who drive over it daily have always seen painters there all the time. In fact, I remember when some guys used to work their painting and they had to hang on a rope to paint underneath. It was different then than now. But if you're going to strip it totally, I think you should use the very best paint. We probably should use epoxy, shouldn't we? It's like painting a steel ship or painting an airplane. And I wondered if over the years we've used low-grade paints that have caused more labor.
I can't really tell you about the paint products that we might have used when it was painted in the 90s. I can tell you now that the paint specification that's in the contract really makes and demands that we have the best paint products that are out there. It's a 3-coat system, so it is a zinc system. There is an epoxy system. There is a top coat system. There's a governing body out there called NEPCOAT, and it's a painting coating certification that you have to have. They go through all the testing. It has to be a certain thickness. It has to be able to withstand certain UV rays. So there's quite a bit that goes into painting nowadays. It's definitely nothing like it was 10 or 15 years ago. The criteria to have a certified painter, they need to go through years and years of training to get to the point where they can even apply it. And when we go through and we hire the contractor, it takes us months to approve the paint system that they're proposing to match the color perfectly, match the thickness, match everything that we want, even to the point where they look at the type of steel we have and look at how the zinc is going to go on the steel.
When you award that bid, could you have them paint a section of steel just to test right away, so you could advance the testing from the final job?
Well, they need to do that at any rate. So at every single coat, they have to do what we call a mock-up, so that we can confirm that it meets the exact specification that we're looking for. So we don't just say, hey, we take your word for it, we think it's good. They do a mock-up, they have to paint it, they have to have the paint company, so whether it's Carboline, Sherwin-Williams, any of the big paint manufacturers, they have to certify to us that they have the paint. And we're talking hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of gallons of paint for all these bridges. So they go through quite a bit of certification, and they have to keep sending that to us. We don't just get it once. Every time they make a new batch of paint, they have to go through that whole certification process.
Well, it sounds like that's a wonderful process and a great investment in saving labor over the next few decades. Well,
we hope so. We get the comment all the time that you're always painting the bridge. As soon as you finish one end, you're starting the other end. The paint products right now are designed to last 15 to 20 years. One of the things that we've done under Buddy's regime here is we've set about making sure that all the money we're spending on the paint now, we're going to get that full design life out. That's why we do the pressure washing. That's why we're doing the sweeping. That's why we're doing all those other things.
well, my impression is you and Buddy have indicated you have a very good process, and we appreciate the very good consideration of the public. And I agree that communication to the public is vital.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just had a quick question. In regards to communication, this is a very large project. You talked about virtual messaging and the website. Are you also going to be using social media? I'm just thinking about the college students, and you can't communicate enough, I think.
Yes.
You're always going to get some calls in regards to,
Yep.
I was there at 3, I thought there was, it's going to be open and it's closed, So I just want to make sure you're going to be using all sorts of social media to kind of get the word out.
We have a Facebook account, Twitter account. We send out currently. So if there's a backup on the bridge, on this bridge, on the Newport Bridge, Jamestown, Sakonnet River Bridge, we send those tweets out. We post it on Facebook. We put it on the website. Awesome. We're very aggressive about going to all the radio stations and giving them notice. As I said, keep an eye on our webpage. There will be a big announcement coming in the next couple of weeks. We're starting something brand new. It's really going to be even more for the high-tech people. And then we're going to have the old-fashioned stuff. We are putting some ads in the newspaper. We're working with Roger Williams right now to put up some signage for their students to make sure, because as you know, they have a basically a dormitory, and a lot of the people live in Portsmouth and come across that bridge. So, we're very aware, and we're very aware that DOT is doing a major project here in Bristol. So we're going to be working with DOT. We'll try and coordinate signage so that people don't get any mixed messages or confusing messages.
Thank you.
I don't have any specific question. I just think, you all deserve a great deal of credit, the Bridge and Turnpike Authority, just because you're always maintaining the bridges. And unlike the other bridges that we have in the state that have been let to get rack and ruin and nothing being done, when I read this repair, when we got it sent to us, I was like, and what else is new? Do you know what I mean? Because you're always doing it. So, this is a major repair. I understand the difference. But I think it's important. And, first, when you started your a little history on the bridge, I was like, please don't tell me they're going to replace the bridge. That would be a disaster. But, so it is of historic significance. It's certainly a landmark, as is the Newport Bridge has become a landmark. And so I thank you very much for your constant maintenance of the bridges. As much as we feel like there's never many people probably feel like there's never a break, that there's not some sort of traffic tie-up on it. It is an important thing to do, so thank you very much for that. And thank you for coming here and letting us know, and many people watch this. And as was said, it was important to keep people informed. And I'll just say, because many of the people are here, I think the Water Authority has done a very good job with the emails and so forth coming forward to us, which is a big project along Metacom Avenue that's going on, and keeping us up to date. I'm sure it's all on the website and the public. We get the emails as to what's happening week by week, and I'm assuming that's something that you guys would be doing as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll just add that thank you very much, not only from the town of Bristol. I know you were just in Portsmouth, because this is two communities that are involved, so communication between both communities on each side of the bridge and everyone involved. But as you stated, it's important here in Bristol because we do have the state projects that are coming up on Metacom Avenue, so it's going to tie into the bridge work, so we have to be mindful as a town and coordinate accordingly with the Turnpike and the DOT. So thank you for mentioning that to the residents. So thanks.
So I'm going to, Pete, did you want to add something? And just in a moment, I want to add that we're very happy that you shared this. I know the people of Bristol and very much appreciate it. No one's happy to hear that they're going to sit in traffic, but just like this council, the buck stops with you, buck stops with us. If someone gets hurt because maintenance wasn't done. That's absolutely unacceptable, and you've taken the approach of, we're going to get ahead of this. We already have a great bridge. We're going to make sure it continues to be that way. I like that you've been unapologetic about the repairs, but extremely sensitive to the community, to this town, reaching out to us, walking us through. You mentioned one of the things about the high-tech people. This is Waze. That's a GPS program, WAZE. It's owned by Google. No, this is not a commercial. What this is a crowdsourcing program that I think you were going to allude to this in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder if you don't mind, which is up to date at the moment. So if there's a 10-minute wait, then Waze will actually reflect that. So it'll be up to the moment, not to the minute, to the moment, which is spectacular. So if you have to go someplace, I know I go over the bridge every day, sometimes 3 times a day, knowing what's going on at the moment without getting there and making an alternate choice is wonderful. So again, we've all said it. We commend you for being in front of this. We look forward to the work being done. I know you do too. Those signages are also very important, giving people the opportunity to come here knowing what's going on, and if they're all looking to just pass through, then they can make that choice too. So Pete, did you want to add something? I need you to get up. Yep, and then we're going to move.
Yeah, my name is Pete Hewitt, Wendy Drive, Bristol. I'm more focused on the money. Back in 2013, when we had the controversy over the Sakana tolls and the Turnpike Authority was tasked with taking on the responsibility for the 4 bridges, they tasked Jacobs Engineering to do a projected cost of what would it take to take care of the operations, maintenance, repair, replacement of the 4 bridges. The sum total of that study, I think, indicated that without raising any tolls on the Newport Bridge, with the sources available in terms of revenue and the uses there would be about a $98 million shortfall over the 10-year project, which is about $10 million a year to accomplish all that needed to be accomplished for the 4 bridges. That involved a $194 million bond issue. I recently read where the Turnpike Authority now is looking at a $223 million bond issue to do all the work on the Mount Hope Bridge and the other 3 bridges that they believe is required. I spoke briefly with some of the folks at the Turnpike Authority, my concern being, will there be or is there any kind of a shortfall with respect to the revenues derived by the Newport tolls and the bond issue to take care of all the work they're planning? My understanding is that all of the work currently projected for the 4 bridges to operate, maintain, repair, replace all that needs to be done with that $223 million bond issue, which I assume has already been approved. I don't know. I might ask, has it been approved? Okay, it has been approved. That there will be no projected shortfall and therefore no needed increase in either the tolls on the Newport Bridge or any other bridges to perform this work. And I just asked for confirmation if that's the case.
Buddy, please. Of course.
Since that took place, that was a long time ago that, Pete alluded to, and he's absolutely correct. Our financial advisors, as well as Jacobs, have looked at the numbers with the 4 bridges, with the other facilities, and there's other land that we got as a result of it. We recently went out for bonds for $125 million with the gas tax money that the legislature was nice enough to give to the Turnpike and Bridge Authority. When you combine the gas tax money, you layer it in with the revenues out of Newport. There's no shortfall. We're very comfortable that we'll be able to accomplish this. And Pete is right about that study, but since then there's been additional studies, and we're very comfortable with where we're at. No shortfall.
Thank you.
And I just, in closing from my part, I see some familiar faces up there from 30 years of involved with government.
It's not me. So
I will 25. I will tell you that we will keep you informed. It's not often that we not only tweet it out, we tweeted it out again today to remind people. I think sometimes it's unusual for government agents to remind people that we're going to have a public hearing tonight. If you want to come and talk to us, we tweeted that out again today. We try to share all of what's going on at the authority with our users. No one's got bigger advocates than Senator Pagliarini and Senator Felag. I talked to Representative Marshall. He's on speed dial. I couldn't look them in the face if we weren't keeping them informed. Oh, there you are. Good. So we will keep everyone informed, I assure you. You mentioned a certain app. We haven't mentioned any apps, but suffice to say we're looking at an app.
So we're going to button this up. And Senator?
I just want to have one comment, because one of the things that came about when we took the tolls off the Secana River Bridge was that the fact that we didn't take away the commitment of expenditures to the Turnpike Authority. So the legislature, when they enacted the 4-bridge system, that from the 2-bridge system, we made a commitment that we would give them 3.5 cents of the gas tax. So every year, the legislature is giving the Turnpike and Bridge Authority $15 million to be utilized with the revenues that they receive from the Newport Bridge tolls to augment a policy to keep the bridge safe and sound, and to scrub the bridges and to ensure the safety of them. So they've done that, and I commend them for that, and also commend them for reaching out to the legislators, to us, in fact, in terms of what's going to transpire, because we've had a lot of questions of them, and they've been able to answer them. One of the concerns that I have personally representing Bristol and Warren is our restaurants, to make sure that we don't lose off on the revenues that we receive, the 1% tax, by those individuals that come over the Secana River Bridge and the Mount Hope Bridge from southeastern Massachusetts. So we're in constant dialogue with the Turnpike and Bridge Authority, and I think the best way is to communicate what they're going to be doing on a weekly or monthly basis so that the public is informed. So,
Thank you, Senator. So to wrap it up, if you want to know more about this, you can go into www.ribta.org. TBA, I had that backwards, excuse me. Don't go there. Go to RITBA, and if you forget that, just search Google for Rhode Island bridges, and you'll find them.
Yeah.
And keep you up to date about what's going on. We thank Senator Felag, Senator Pagliarini, Rep. Marshall for coming here, and we very much thank Buddy and Eric for sharing what you shared, answering questions, and we look forward to updates as they come along. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
The first item on your agenda this evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Seconded?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is submission of the council meeting minutes of July 27th.
Motion to approve?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item C1. This is the second reading for adoption of Ordinance 2016-12. This, as the council will recall, is for some additions to the town code concerning the sewers and sewage disposal.
To keep up with the state, in accordance with our ordinances, I make a motion that we adopt Chapter 22 of the Sewers and Sewage Disposal section.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item D1. This is the petition of East Bay Laundromat, 26 Gooding Avenue, request for public laundry license. This is the same premises as previous licensee, new owner.
What's this council's pleasure?
Make a motion to grant the license that was requested by the applicant for the public laundry license.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
We wish the new owner much luck and success.
The next item is item D2. This is the petition of the PTG of Our Lady of Mount Carmel School. Request council consideration for a bingo license for November 4th. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator and chief of police as a late item.
Motion to approve the bingo license for November 4th?
Seconded?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is for D2?
Yes.
Okay, just for the bingo, D2.
That's
Oh, yeah.
it. Bingo, you got it
Yeah, but
right.
there's no D in bingo.
There's a lot of jokes that I could make right now. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the second reading for the request of Darlene Brown, 38 Collins Street, who had asked council consideration for an accessible parking space. That's item F1.
Well, I think the report on this is rather convincing that this may not be needed given the width of the street and all.
I think this is the other one. This
I
is for
think
the
it's the
handicap.
other one.
This is the accessible
Item.
parking space.
I just
Item
move that
F1.
this constitutes the first reading.
It's this.
This is the second reading.
Second reading, I'm
Second
sorry.
reading.
Second reading. Right.
So just for clarity, just so we're all on the
For
same page,
adoption, right.
this was Darlene Brown at 38 Collins Street, and this was the second reading request for accessible parking space or handicap parking space.
Yeah, and I'll
Same.
second Mary's motion.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Item F2, this is the request of Michael Anderson, 55 Cedar Drive. He's requesting a no parking across from his driveway. The Director of Public Works, Town Administrator, and Chief of Police all recommend that the petition be denied.
This is what Halsey was talking about.
Upon the recommendations that were submitted, I make a motion we deny the request.
I'd second that.
There's a motion and a second to deny. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, you have a petition from Eliza Cohn for Food on the Move. This was a request to operate a mobile food produce market at various locations. I believe the solicitor has something to add.
This can be handled with a receive and file. I've spoken to the proprietor. They're not in need of a license from the town based upon what they're going to be doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that that's important to note, because from my understanding, they've been going to these locations anyway,
Right.
inside perhaps, because when you look at it on the agenda, it leads you to believe that we would be allowing, like a food truck or mobile sales. That has not been something that we've denied those so many times. So I know
Right.
it's different.
No, this is very different. It doesn't
Right.
involve public property, so it's not an issue.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion to receive and file in a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next items are your public service appointment section. You have first G1A, the Harbor Commission Advisory Committee. There are 3 positions available, all with terms to expire in August of 2019. You have notice from Barbara Healy, who currently serves, who is not seeking reappointment, and you have Andrew Nerona and Robert Hamill, both currently serving, both seeking reappointment.
I would move that we reappoint Mr. Nerona and Mr. Hamill and advertise for the 3rd position.
I'll second motion with a letter of thanks.
Is there a discussion?
Just send a letter of thanks to Barbara Healy.
Okay.
I know that we took up a discussion before with this advisory committee in tandem with the Harbor Commission, and we added one some time ago with the discussion that need be in the future that maybe not re-advertise and keep it as the status quo before, if it's commendable to my colleagues for this committee.
Yeah, this is sort of a floating number of members. If people are interested or whatever, they can always come forward. I mean, we can live with it either way.
So, Mary, would you amend your motion that it would not include advertising?
Yeah, why don't we just reappoint the 2 gentlemen, and we can just leave it, in which case, if we need an additional person, they can come forward, if there's somebody who's interested.
Perfect. And there was a second on that?
Second, yeah.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the Post-Retirement Benefits Fund Board of Trustees, with term to expire in August 2019. Currently serving is Peter Hewitt, 11 Wendy Drive, seeking reappointment.
I move to reappoint Pete Hewitt.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The Zoning Board of Review alternate to fill the unexpired term of which will conclude on March 2017. You have Donald S. Kern of 32 Defiance Avenue, who has interested appointment and who has been interviewed, and you also have a new applicant, Derek Tipton, or do I have that reversed?
Oh, you have it right.
You have it right.
Yeah.
Derek Tipton, 10 Dixon Avenue, who's interested in appointment.
I'd like to thank Mr. Kern for coming Monday for the interview, and I would like to schedule an interview for Mr. Tipton before making the appointments.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Christmas Festival Committee, you have the applications of Judy Davis of 19 Sherry Avenue and Paula Andrews of 510 Child Street, Warren, both interested in joining the committee.
I'd like to thank Ms. Davis and Ms. Andrews for applying for the Christmas Festival and approve and submit it to the Christmas Festival Committee.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the CRMC alternate. This would be to fill the unexpired term to expire in January of next year. You have the interest expressed by John Triano of 707 Hope Street.
Motion.
Motion to appoint.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to appoint. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, Auxiliary Harbor Master, terms to expire in January 2017. You have the applications of Joseph Simeone, 42 Roosevelt Drive, and Andrew Mulvey, 3 Tina Court, both recently interviewed, both seeking appointment.
Motion to appoint Mr. Simeone and Mr. Mulvey.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is the part where I always say this council very much appreciates the time, effort, and energy that our boards and commissions put in on their own volition to make the town a better place. And it does not go unnoticed, and it is not unappreciated. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, was continued from the July 27th meeting. This has to do with Council's desire to have a status update report concerning the Tanyard Brook Phase 2 project.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we have Mr. Aguiar coming in front of us to present an update from the administration. Welcome.
Councilman Aguiar, I believe, right?
Yes. Councilman, that's right.
Thank you.
Only over there.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council.
Welcome.
I also heard the bridge presentation the other night. They said the same thing. They're telling Portsmouth and Bristol.
You can compare notes. We're good.
That's good.
So,
That's good.
kept keeping them honest. But thank you for having me here tonight. It's my understanding you're looking for an update on the status of the easements, as well as the status of where we stand with the design documents. To date, with the easements, we've developed the draft easements, and we've met with, there was 32 properties. We've met with the majority of those property owners. There's still a few outstanding owners that we've tried various measures to reach them, phone calls, certified mailings, and we've come up empty with a few of those property owners. We have a plan. We have the draft easements prepared. We're probably going to be going door to door on those properties to try to, reach out to these owners, and that's something that we're going to work on with the town. But following the last meeting, we decided we would develop the draft easement, have it prepared, so that when we actually can meet with the owners, we can leave them the document to review. So we hope to get that accomplished in the next week.
How many property owners are we speaking of?
I think it's approximately 5. And sometimes, some of the properties are for sale, so that could be, that could be an issue.
Of the ones you've reached, have they been cooperative?
Yes, we've had, we had very positive meetings with the majority, I think all of the abutters that we were able to meet with, property owners. We've had very positive discussions. They clearly understand what we're going to be doing on their property. We've sent them back the draft easements. A few have contacted me just for clarifications. We're still working with them. But all in all, it's been a very positive experience. We still have a little bit of work to do, but the process is ongoing.
And is this part of the timeline? Have you budgeted enough time for this to reach out to these people? I'm just thinking about the budget and
yes.
More time you're waiting.
Well,
it just seems like it's ongoing.
Unfortunately, I think, too, we dragged into the summer, and it's very, it's understandable. It's tough to get in touch. People could be away on vacation. But, again, we probably have about five people that we need to contact. We've sent the easements back out to the abutters, or to the property owners. We've got some positive feedback. We gave them until September 16th. The ones that we've sent back, we gave them until September 16th to respond to us, with any comments or additional concerns. We're currently also developing, compensation for those easements. What's the value of the impact to those properties? So we still need to resolve that issue and have that conversation with the property owners.
So what does that bring you in regards to, sorry, Mr. Chairman, where does that bring you in the calendar year here? You know what I mean? Are we looking?
We're still
I think
on
we're all
schedule.
looking for like a little bit more.
No, we're still on
movement.
schedule. Our tentative schedule to complete the easement process, if we can get the draft easements signed off on with the abutters by the end of October, early November, we're still on schedule. Our design plans are substantially complete. We're at 75%, but really we're working out the details of each of the individual parcels, refining our cost estimate and quantities, and some of that has to do with each of these meetings with the abutters.
Kevin, can I just ask you,
Sure.
and maybe it's a question for Mike, but, so these 5 or so people, I mean, we've heard that for a long time.
Yes, we have.
It's probably like when we've had several updates, I'd say over the last year, or maybe not quite a year, it's been this outstanding group of people that may be absentee landlords, whatever the case may be. So I am curious as to whether there is a notification process. Like if you've tried everything and you can document everything, advertise it publicly. Is there a way that you can do the work, Mike, or what happens if we just don't reach them?
Yeah, and I'd have to check the enabling legislation, but there's probably a condemnation process at that point to get the easement if it doesn't come voluntarily.
I mean, I would imagine that the whoever the tenants who may be living in the property, if they are, if there are people living in them, they should be able to reach their landlords, I would think.
I mean, we've tried phone calls, certified mail, follow-up phone calls.
Right.
I mean, the certified mail, I believe, came back. It wasn't even signed for. So,
Well, I, with all due respect, as my colleague specified, this is why you're here.
Yeah.
And the timeline is since back in March. And since March, this is the fourth update of trying to get a hold of these people. And the reason why the timeline is important to this council is because we have multiple projects. We have a capital plan. We have a structure of investments. We have a new bond referendum that's going to be on the ballot for $17 million. So this council likes to be proactive to keep our projects on schedule for results. With that said, you're stating now something that was already stated, that we were going to have people go to these houses and knock on doors. Councilman Vice Chair Sweeney alluded to asking you how are we going to be on the time frame. If the permitting process was supposed to be back in May and June, you're saying that's pretty much already done and the bidding process could go out in November on the same timeline?
no, the construction, the actual construction documents will be completed by December of this year, which is still on schedule for advertising for next year for a construction project. So, but the issue with the easements are gaining access to each of these individual properties. So, it has taken a little bit longer than expected. We took the initiative to actually draft up the draft easement explaining what impacts would be. Because initially we were meeting with the abutters, we met with them, and then based on their comments and explaining things, we developed the draft easements. That process went fairly smoothly once we were able, and that took probably 3 months to get everybody. I mean, we were meeting still with some of them in March. So we took the initiative and actually drafted up those easements. So we have easements, we can go meet with these property owners if we can get them, or we have to, figure out what that next course of action is.
Yeah, because actually last June of 2015, everyone was in full agreements and going forward for the borders and construction easements. You had, I believe, 27 or 37. That's going back a year.
I agree with Councilman Stewart.
And this just can't keep happening because we're hearing tonight we're going to go knock on their doors. For 4 meetings we've been hearing that.
Well, they don't live there, obviously.
So, but at least the effort of what we're trying to get accomplished so we can move forward with this, and and that's what we want to do. This project has been going for multiple years, and like I said, the timeline accordance with our other projects that we're trying to balance, and release of bond money and try to get results for our residents for these issues is of utmost importance.
But I think one of the most important things would be probably if you and our solicitor have not started, is to come up with Plan B, because to me it seems somewhat unlikely that you're going to get all 5 of those people, because you've been trying for many, many, many months, and it's been the same number of people that you keep saying, well, there's about 5 that we just can't reach, and everyone else seems to be cooperative, and so it's a very small handful that you hate to put the project behind because of people that whatever's going on in their lives, or this is some investment from afar, so. I don't know if that's something that Mike can look into. And
I will. We'll work together.
How about this?
We'll begin that process.
How about by the next meeting, we've looked at Plan A1, maybe not B, and have we exhausted all possibilities on the town level? We've sent out letters, but we still haven't knocked on doors, as Councilman Stewart has pointed out, and this has gone on for a while.
Yeah.
So we need to move with this. I have no doubt that you want to move with this, but we're not. So it's time for us to move forward. So let's make sure that we're using all of the tools at our disposal. I know that we've had success in the past with reaching out to people through potentially our police department, and I don't want to speak for the chief on this, but I'm sure that he could weigh in if he disagrees or agrees. But we've had some success with that. Our goal, and is your goal that I've heard, we don't want to do anything without the okay from those neighbors. That is what we want to have done. We want to talk with them. Sure. We want to work it through, make sure everybody's on the same page as you have with the majority of them. But by the next meeting, let's know what we've got for an update and what we're going to do, and let's find out that we've at least touched base with, well, actually, I'm going to take that back. Did we touch base with the 5 and we can move forward with this?
Can I just ask one other question about these 5? Are they relatively simple properties, or is any one of them or more complicated part of the project?
I believe they are relatively straightforward. Impacts to the properties. Typically, it's the lawn, driveways, fences.
Right. I mean, they don't have to have a garage removed, or you're not going through their basement and have to move
No.
This isn't one of those houses, right? These aren't one of those, right?
No, I do not believe so.
So they should be fairly simple.
And I remember, Kevin, you stating that this procedure that they're doing with Phase 2 is going to cover time that was wasted with the residents in Phase 1. So I do understand it took a little longer to go with the residents through the process of finalization after, the culverts are done, and we talked about that briefly in the past meeting. So, but this is just getting a little extended, more than what it should be.
And Kevin, if you
back
could.
at the next meeting, do you want? I can get
Yes,
back
please.
for the next.
That would be great.
What's the date of
When
this?
is our next meeting, Lou?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? I'll tell you what. Let's be realistic. I would like success, not proven
Well,
failure.
we can
right?
give you an update.
So I think our next it will be 5 weeks out. Would that be correct?
28th. September 28th. One after that, the 28th.
September 28th.
So September
Make a motion
28th.
to continue this.
Not yet, if you don't mind, because I wanted to get a couple of things out. I know the council knows this, but maybe you could share in a few words to the general public again. We've talked about this for a bit. We say 10-yard brook Phase 2, but that sounds like a code word. So maybe we could share with everyone real quick. Generally, what are we talking about, and where does it affect? Just real quick.
The Tanya Brook Phase 2 extends from where Phase 1 ended on Garfield Ave and extends all the way up to the State Street Reservoir. So it's approximately 3,000 feet of culvert replacement through the yards. And the majority of that is, like you said, it's all private property.
And it's underground primarily.
Well,
It used to be?
The majority of the culvert is underground, but there's many people that have the culvert in their yard. The concrete caps are in their yard. So what we're looking to do is actually get that below grade so that they do not have that structure sticking out of the ground. So that's the major improvement under Phase 2 is to continue to lower the culvert, get it underground.
What other questions does this council have?
I said one more, and I was just wondering, when you do come back with the status, if you could update us on any other parts of the phases of this project that you may have an update on.
Sure.
So maybe you can let us know what's going on there.
Yep. By the 28th, you said September?
Yes, please.
28th?
If we're going to wait that long, could we also ask that a conversation that some research be taken by our solicitor so that we know if there's...
I'll be in touch. Kevin and I will talk, absolutely.
We've
For
already
the
had
Plan B.
conversations on
You might not need to get, as the chairman said, maybe not all the way to Plan B, but I do think that
But let's
5
go there
weeks
if
you
we
should
have
know
to.
anyway, yeah. You should
Absolutely.
have an
Agreed.
idea that we even have an option, I think.
Agreed.
Kevin, with the passage of several years of planning, have you recently reevaluated the estimate of the cost of it? I mean, it certainly hasn't gone down, and it probably went up.
We are working on the cost estimate as well, concurrently with the design process. I don't have the latest figures in front of me.
Well, I think if you could also advise the council about that in 5 weeks' time, it would be good for our planning, because this is a pretty big bite, and we've got to find a way to pay for it.
Kevin, we're going to block out an hour and a half for you, so...
I'll be prepared.
We're going to go knocking on doors with you, too.
Well, hopefully we'll have that all accomplished. I'll come in here with nothing but good news on the 28th.
Good.
That is, I know that's everyone's goal, so... I heard a motion from Councilman Stewart.
Motion to continue this until September 28th, and thank you very much for coming.
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Did you want to add anything really quick?
Question.
Certainly.
Does Phase 2 complete the project?
Can't hear
No.
you at home. They can't hear you at home. You can get up.
Does Phase 2 complete the project?
No.
No.
Kevin, did you want to answer that?
Well,
What project do you speak of, right?
Well, January Brook extends from Garfield to State Street Reservoir, so if everything is in place and we take it to State Street Reservoir, then yes, Phase 2 would complete the replacement of January Brook.
Okay.
Well, now, the
And then it goes
enlargement
from
of the State Street Reservoir is not in Phase 2, is it?
State Street, no.
It's in there. Yes.
It is in Phase 2?
Yeah, we had the concept for the design and the expansion of the reservoir. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
So we have a motion and a second to continue this to September 28th with all the caveats already spoken about. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, item H2 also continued from July 27th. This was Council's request to have a discussion with the directors of the Bristol County Water Authority who represent Bristol regarding the interconnection with East Providence and or Pawtucket.
And I believe all three are here, correct? Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Do you mind? I know there's only one mic. I apologize, but this council appreciates you here this evening to share with us and the public what's going on.
Okay.
Councilman Stewart's agenda item, did you?
Oh.
Hi, Gina McDonald, one of the Bristol members of the Bristol County Water Authority.
Welcome.
Thank you. And Frank Souza and Paul Bishop are here with me.
Well, I just wanted to welcome the directors. First of all, they work very hard on our behalf for our residents and bringing them to the public to give an update of, Phase 1 to the interconnect, the possible Phase 2 and the options, and also thank you for all your candid work and communication to our residents of the upgrades along Medicum Avenue into the northern part, and anything that you would like to add. So I think it's always good to have them every now and then to communicate with the public on our behalf, so welcome.
Thank you. Do you want me to just give an overview, or did you want to ask questions?
Actually, an overview would be helpful, and as
Okay.
Councilman Stewart and actually Councilman Perella both said, that the updates that you've been giving us about what's going on, not you personally, but obviously BCWA, have been wonderful, and we speak of the Medicom Ave, even though it's a challenge for everyone, it's wonderful to know what's going on and know that there is progress. So,
I think that when I'm sitting there in traffic.
yes, me too. Me too.
So basically, the problem is that the Bristol County Water Authority, prior to the installation of the Under Bay pipeline, drew all its water from shallow reservoirs, mostly located in Massachusetts, and processed that water through a treatment plant, which is more than functionally obsolete. Since the Under Bay pipeline went in, we've been drawing all of our water from the Scituate Reservoir through the Providence water supply system. The problem is it's a single source of supply, and there are a number of complications with that, not the least of which is the legislature has required that we maintain those shallow reservoirs until we have a secondary source of supply. It's not realistic to require us to maintain those reservoirs because, frankly, we would be hard-pressed to treat that water given the obsolescence of the water treatment plant, even though it is run once a month just to make certain that it is functional. The cost to replace that treatment plant would far exceed the cost of having an alternate source of supply. The complication with the alternate source of supply is that we can connect to East Providence, which would provide us with more than enough water to service Bristol, but the city of East Providence has not been able to agree politically to participate with Bristol on this project. We're proceeding with the planning on it alone. It's a $4.5 million project, we estimate. We don't know that there will be any money coming from the state. It used to be that the state would match 50% of the cost of a pipeline like this. They don't have any money in the kitty at the moment, and it's not clear if and when they will. If that pipeline were put in solely at Bristol's cost, it would provide us with a secondary source of supply, but it would be coming from the Scituate Reservoir. The solution for a true redundant source would be coming from Pawtucket, and that's a much more expensive project. So if Bristol were to build a smaller pipeline to Pawtucket, sufficient to service Bristol, but not sufficient to service East Providence, which would be along the route of the pipeline.
Would this be an appropriate time to ask a question about that? We note that there's a plan to install a 16-inch pipeline just to East Providence.
Right.
And as I understand it, in being associated with this way back, if we were eventually be able to go to Pawtucket, which is what we need to do, wouldn't that 16-inch pipeline be a portion of that supply from the north down to us?
Yes.
Well, that makes me wonder why it's 16 inches and not bigger, because it'd be very foolish to put in a smaller pipeline now, and then if we eventually do the Pawtucket plan, have to enlarge it to a bigger one or double it up.
Well, I think that's true. What we do, the complication here is that we don't know if and when East Providence will ever go along with this. So if Bristol were to decide the practical and the prudent thing would be to put a larger pipeline in so that East Providence could be serviced in the future, that would be lovely, but it would be much more expensive for the ratepayers in Bristol.
Well, that is the point that I would like to ask.
And we don't have the authority to force East Providence to pay.
Yeah, but I'd like to ask for analysis of that point about the expense. Because normally, when you much enlarge a pipe, it doesn't add a whole lot to the expense, because the mobilization, the digging, and the labor are the big expense. And I know there's a problem if you use too big a pipeline with a low flow. That's also difficult. But I just think you should review whether or not that pipe should be bigger.
Well,
in the hope that we'd eventually have the line to further on to Pawtucket.
If it were serving both communities, it would be a 30-inch water line. Now, Bristol doesn't have the authority to force East Providence to do anything. The state does, and there had been discussions last year with our representative on this point, but he did not make anything happen at the state. So we need to bring pressure on the state in order to get their attention and get some wiser minds to agree with you that the thing to do is build a larger pipeline that will service both communities.
Gina, I know you have a meeting tomorrow, and speaking with the chairman in a proactive way, that's what was discussed, is a lot of time was wasted with those talks between all the members of the state and even the political officials of East Providence and the General Assembly. To that, he mentioned that he already has meetings set up with the Water Supply Board and certain individuals to have a proactive approach going into the next year, which, again, that's what we want to convey, and from all the directors, to be ahead of this since we were set back the way we were.
And he and Pam had a proactive meeting a year ago, and they were told, we'd love to help, we don't have any money, we don't have any prospects of money, good luck. I expect the same message this time.
And I believe the Water Supply Board, if I am correct, said that it's a good project and they would like to match the 50, and now they're saying they don't have any money.
If they had money, they think it's a worthy project, but they don't have any money and they don't have any prospects of money unless we hear something different this week.
Gina, what's the total cost of this project, as of right now?
I want to say it's $27 million.
27 million?
Let me just...
But the phase that we're going forward with, the interconnect, is 4.5 or
it's
close to 4.5.
4.5 to East Providence.
And that's a
but
backup.
But you're talking about the Pawtucket.
I'm talking about the Pawtucket.
Yeah, after that, the whole total cost of the Pawtucket project, if we go forward with phase 2.
Okay.
But is that the bigger pipe or just a pipe to service Bristol County?
It's a bigger, longer pipe. And the total cost would be $27 million. And that's an approximate because the design work hasn't been done.
Now, you hear a lot about the, Pawtucket and various communities looking to Pawtucket as a backup or for a main source of water, and the purchasing of Pawtucket water. I happened to have a very brief conversation with someone there just because we had a student tour there over the summer, and I said something like, "Oh, everybody wants to buy your water from you guys," and they're like, "Yeah," and then I mentioned Bristol County, and they're like, "Yeah, we're working on that." So, first of all, I think there's a lot of people interested, potentially, a lot of communities interested in purchasing that water, and that would be like a potential finite. Are they clear that we have an interest and are trying to work on that we would be factored in as going with Pawtucket if we can identify the funding source for that?
That is certainly what the board has been told. We have not been present at those discussions, but that's our understanding.
And the issue, there's the state funding issue, which I think we really, missed the boat on. I don't agree with some of the decisions that were made at the legislative level and other places that had happened a couple of years ago. But I am concerned that the politics in East Providence has not really changed. Like every time we sort of look at the newspaper, there's like another town manager being fired. And I think we got caught up in that the last time, a couple of years ago when this all started, when there was going to be the bond and, all of that. And, it seemed like it settled down a little bit. Now they're in that similar position again. And it kind of leaves us, sort of left holding the bag. Like we have to do it on our own. It would be a lot less expensive if they would just come in on this. Obviously, we would need to identify some state money for it. But, I don't know, like, what else we can do to continue moving this along unless there was a plan down the road to fund it over time ourselves.
Well, I think the way to proceed would be to put pressure on the state to fund their 50% of the $4.5 million tie-in to East Providence and get that done. We will then be in much better shape if our pipeline under the bay broke than we are today. Longer term, I think we need to get the state to get East Providence to buy into the alternate supply from Pawtucket.
So there's no bond on this upcoming election that would relate to this topic?
None.
There could be in the next election.
And frankly, what has happened in the past is the city manager in East Providence has said yes, but the council says no, and the council has the power.
Well, Gina, how strong is the emphasis upon this vital matter at the authority? Mr. Klepper has commented about it in his letter, and he's very strongly urging that we eventually do have the pipeline to Pawtucket, and I agree with that. But Pam, in her intro to the annual report, didn't seem to make any mention of it at all. So I wonder, what is the strength of the resolve between you three members and the other 6 members?
Well, I think the 3 of us from Bristol feel that this is the single most important thing in front of the Water Authority. I believe that the members from Barrington feel the same way. I don't know that there's unanimity with the town council in Warren. I think there is with the board members on the Water Authority.
Well, if you've got 6 out of 9, that's good. I hope you'll all push.
Yeah, I think the Water Authority agrees. It's just not clear that the council in Warren is 100% on board. Frankly, I think what could be helpful from all of you sitting there is to say in strong terms to the Water Authority that we want a design for this connection to East Providence finished this year, and we want a plan to get it done with or without state funding.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that's a very good suggestion that we as a council advise in that regard.
Was that already implemented as an alternative in the capital plan?
Yeah.
At the end of the day...
We haven't gone out for that bond, but it's in the capital plan.
At the end of the day, for our residents here in Bristol, Warren, Barrington, is the commodity of water, the infrastructure, and the rates. That's the trifecta. So,
well, the monthly additional cost to each ratepayer, if we did the $4.5 million project without any state assistance, would be about $1.60 a month. And I can assure you that no one of you wants to be sitting there if that pipeline is interrupted and tell ratepayers that for less than $2 a month or the cost of a cup of coffee a day, they're without water.
well, I think that's why we voted as a tri-town.
Right.
That was specified that was a need and
right.
not a choice. So,
if I look a little confused here, you just mentioned the tri-county meeting. You mentioned, or you suggested that this council should back the proposal or back the project of the $4.5 million to connect on East Providence. We did that already. We did that a year ago.
No, you did that, but
Okay.
there's this hope out there that the state will kick in half the cost because they used to do that. Now, I think that would be wonderful if they did. The question is how long you want us to sit hoping as opposed to taking action.
Well, I think, wouldn't it take a while for this design to be completed? I mean, I would think that if you set out to do, or is the design more or less done? Because I know there was some work on it. I mean, if you're starting to do something and as someone suggested that it be completed, or you did, Gina, by the end of the year, I don't know, the design, I don't think you mean this year probably, but, I mean, you're going to be heading into like a big state election in 2 years. So, I mean, there could be a big push from water authorities and others to do like similar to the last election with the bond, to do something for this topic that would impact us and other communities around the state. So, I mean, I do think that that's within the realm of possibility that there could be some state money, and if the design is done, we'd be that much further ahead to be able to have like a, quote, shovel-ready project. And so, I mean, I think it's definitely worthwhile for you to pursue that, and I think we said that at the meeting, but I do think you're correct that, you know, there was lots of discussion. I don't remember how they voted, but Warren was wanting to, you know, go back to East Providence again and to maybe bring them to a meeting when all of that had been done in, you know, for a year or two, that we had been, you know, the Water Authority had been doing all of that. And I believe they had been, because it's not hard to follow like the political situation in that community of if you went to the council, if you went to the manager, not everybody wasn't on the same page. So I think if you have 2/3 of the communities really strongly telling you that we want to see a plan and we want to see this move forward to the best that we can. I mean, I don't think any of us want to put the ratepayers on the hook for $27 million, but we need to find the state money. But we can advocate for another bond issue at the state level within the next election.
Well, I agree with you, and frankly, the Flint, Michigan situation should help with that bond issue.
Right.
But in the near term, I think the connection to East Providence has to assume a huge urgency.
Oh, I'm not even discussing that part.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Pawtucket connection.
And Gina, I'd add something that I clearly recall at that meeting, that it was actually Pam Marchand that gave us the clear impression. Impression is too light a word. It was state dollars would take care of half of this. It wasn't a promise, but it was very short of a promise. So our information was based off of the information we got directly from Pam.
Right.
So to be clear, I don't think anyone here in the council has ever had the proposal put in front of them to say, we can do this, but you got to pay for the whole thing. That's never been proposed.
Right. I agree.
So,
I agree with
I think
you.
the state probably spent the money. I mean, on something else, because we weren't like.
Well, and they haven't had a
wanted to get-
water bond issue for some time, and they've used up the funds or they've reallocated it for something else. No, but I totally agree with you. That is the
Right.
way it was presented.
That's right.
So to your end, and let's spin this to a positive, how about this? I think everyone here is on the same page as our directors, which is we require an alternate water source, or excuse me, alternate connection. I'm sorry. That's probably a better way to put that. We are 100% behind that. We may have differing opinions on where that should be, but we all know we need it. And this is what we've decided as a whole, which is where we're going. So I would say to you, tell us what you need from us. You want our support? You've got it. What do you need from us from now, though? Meaning, you say push pressure on the state. I think we need a clear idea of exactly what we're asking for.
Okay,
and
well,
then we
let's-
can move that next step.
I think that's more than fair. So let us hold that in abeyance until after Pam and Alan meet with the state, which I think is happening Friday, and come back to you. And what I expect to come back to you with is there is no assurance that the state has money, that the timing to complete the design issue is X. You know, the design phase is, you know, let's say somewhere by March of 2017, and by April of 2017, we need to make a decision if we go forward without East Providence or if we try to get the state to push East Providence into cooperating.
And is this the $4.5 million project?
Yes, I'm just talking about the 4.5 because I agree with you that the larger project should be done with state funding and a statewide bond issue that everybody buys into.
So, for clarity for everyone, the $4.5 million gives us an additional connection to the same water source.
Yes.
So the water source that we have right now is an underground or underwater pipeline that goes through the bay. If that were to fail, and just as important, just a general maintenance, we can't turn it off. It's on until it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
That's why this is so important. That's why this is a lot of money, too. But not having it there, no water coming out of our faucets would be, well,
It would be devastating.
fire, so many other issues that could come from that. So this, and I commend Councilman Stewart, and I commend our directors for coming here tonight and talking to us about this. We want this done. So tell us what you need from us. Give us something tangible to walk forward with. And I know that I haven't asked our reps and senators for anything specific on this.
Okay.
So give us all an opportunity to take that next step.
Well, we have a board meeting tomorrow night. Let us say that we will get back to you within the next 30 days with no more than a 2-page ask with
Great.
timing and specifics.
September 28th, perhaps?
That's not our next meeting, it's the one after that.
Sounds
So,
good.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
One second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does council have any other questions?
No, but I am concerned about the redundancy of source. I mean, and that's one reason why you can't give up your own reservoirs. So,
Mary and I, what Mary just said, and I'm going to paraphrase if you don't mind, we have water right now, and we have differing opinions, and it's okay that we have differing opinions on using the Warren source, rebuilding that. We've had different ideas on that, but we all agree on one thing. We cannot continue where we're going right now because we will have a problem. So we need to take steps to make this better. So,
I support Pawtucket now.
Rick, did you want to share something? You were up, or Mike, you had your hand up. Did you want to share something? Go ahead. Please stand up. You.
I admit to being very confused. I think the enabling statute back in 1995 allocated a certain amount of money to run a secondary pipeline up to the shad, up to the under, and also to provide funding for an emergency interconnect between Bristol and East Providence. At a high school meeting with the Bristol County Water Authority, when Pam's predecessor was the executive director, I remember Marina Peterson asked him specifically whether or not the emergency interconnect was built. And my recollection is he said, yes, it was, but it hadn't been turned on. It hadn't been tested. And it didn't need to be tested because it was simply a matter of pumping up or gravity flow down. I think I asked Pam Marchand at a Warren Town Council meeting on the same subject whether or not that emergency interconnect between Bristol and East Providence had been built. My recollection is she said, yes, it had. I'm now hearing we're talking about $4.5 million that are needed to build what had already been built, as far as my recollection goes. So I'm asking for clarification. Is there or is there
Good
not
question.
an emergency interconnect between Bristol and East Providence, which would have been the first portion of the line that would have been extended to Pawtucket if East Providence hadn't blocked that effort? So I'm just asking for clarification. Am my recollection correct?
So wait. If you would, no, wait, Gina, if you could come up and Pete, if you could give her the mic, please. Thank you.
To the best of our knowledge, no such emergency interconnect exists. I think what you might be thinking of is there is a connection that goes across the Barrington Bridge that was built and not connected, and then it had some difficulties, and it was reconstructed at the state's expense, and it's been tested. It's not used regularly, but it's there. But no East Providence connection that I'm aware of.
Here's what I don't want to do is I think this is a fair question that if you're not aware of the answer or you're not 100% positive of it, we have you coming, or you're going to share some information on the 28th, and I'm not shutting this down if somebody else wanted to ask something, but I'd like to know the answer to that question too. And here's the thing, and I'm going to stop right here, is that Pam's not here, the ex-director's not here, so what you pointed out as you've got a question, no one can respond to that at this moment, but I would like an answer.
Well,
just
I
as
have
everybody
a
else
part
would.
two, and
Okay,
that
go
is
ahead.
we're talking about whether or not the town of Bristol is going to have to come up with the $4.5 million to do whatever. My understanding is that there was about $6.9 million of state funding that was allocated and sitting in somebody's back pocket, waiting to be used for the purposes of the enabling legislation, the statute. What happened to that money?
It's not the town of Bristol, it's the water.
You are absolutely correct, and that was ostensibly sitting earmarked for that purpose. And what Pam and Alan were told last year was that was reallocated for other water purposes, and it no longer exists.
So I'll tell you what, again, great question that needs a clarity, so we can get that for, and I'm not pushing this off, but if no one can answer it right now, we're talking about conjecture. So
Could I make one clarification? I mean, Pete mentioned that
the town of
the
Bristol.
town of Bristol, this is not the town of Bristol that would be paying any of this. This would be the Bristol County Water Authority that would be paying it. It's still our ratepayers, but it's not a town project, just to clarify that.
As Director Sylvia has pointed out many times, Bristol, the town of Bristol has the
Largest.
50+% of the ratepayers. So there's 16,000, if my memory is correct from you sharing this with me, and over half of them are Bristol water users. So we do have the most to gain, and we also have the most to lose. So.
My name is Rick Levy from Bristol. I just wanted to let the council know that the Water Authority is in the process of buying new water meters. We're talking about $4 million here, $2 million here, $27 million here. They're talking about 18,000 water meters that we don't even need. And then we have to outsource the installation. We're talking about some serious money. I mean, for $4.5 million, and then they talk $27 million, what happens to all this money that is wasted on water meters we don't need? And that's been documented already.
I agree with you, Mr. Levy, and again, I thank you for bringing that up, and I think we should attach that to the next meeting so we can address that also. I was just going to ask my solicitor on how much can we go with topics in regards to what we asked the directors to come in front of us, so that's why I figured we can continue this
One second, Halsey.
and have those answers, because you're absolutely right about those meters.
Well, the only concern
Rick, I'm going to ask you to stop just one moment, and I'd like the solicitor to respond to that, just in case we're out of line.
Yeah. If you want to go on to this particular topic, all you have to do is make a motion to add it to the agenda.
I would make a motion to add this element to the discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go ahead, sir.
The only thing I'd like is to stop this decision if it's going to be made tomorrow, so you can think about this. Once you roll the dice, it's gone. So it's just a waste of money. And another thing I brought up at the Tri-Town meeting was that before anybody does anything with the Bristol County Water Authority, why don't you stop and think about what the hell you're doing? Mason Farms, I don't know the exact figure, maybe somebody can tell me, but when they accidentally broke the gas valve, Bristol County Water had to pay National Grid, I think, almost $70,000. And the next thing is, excuse me, this pipeline across the bridge, under the bridge in Barrington, that was running for almost 4 years, had no reason whatsoever to shut it down. Pam Marchand or Kenny Booth gave the word, I have the dates, they actually called the Barrington Police to cordon off the area to shut the valve off. That's why it froze. She went and told Walt Betrow that she didn't have a clue what had happened. Now the state came in and fixed the pipe. And I don't think that was fair, because the rest of the people in the state have to pay that amount of money, and they had nothing to do with the pipe breaking. But my point with all of this is, stop and think of what you're doing before you continue to spend all this money. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to just add to that perspective. You know, this has been a very sorry history of finance. First of all, we lost the $6.9 million because we didn't do anything to use it. Secondly, we had a strong opportunity 2 years ago to put on the ballot a large multi-million-dollar proposal that would have been very helpful to the Pawtucket project. And the word I get from the legislature is the reason we didn't get that was that the superintendent didn't provide enough data to ask for it. So we have a sorry background of finance, and I think that's what all of you could work on to do it better now in 2016 and 17 than has been done for the last decade. And I also agree with the gentleman that let's not spend a lot of money on something that isn't needed at the moment. Wonderful to have new meters and all, but I'd much rather have the line to Pawtucket to take care of the day when our main pipeline breaks and people in Bristol might have no water at all.
My question to the directors, to Mr. Levy's point about the meters, which I read up on, and the cost to that vendor, and the procedure of why that vendor times the amount of meters. Can anyone address if that will be voting on tomorrow?
It is on the agenda, as it was on the agenda at our last meeting. It's not clear that we will be voting on it tomorrow, but it is there for action. And, one point of information about the meters that are in place are 30 to 50 years old. They cannot be read electronically. They have to be read manually. And that's one of the biggest reasons that the bills are submitted every quarter instead of every month.
Well, maybe you could do this for this council, is that this is certainly fresh information. Now, you said it was on the agenda, and I absolutely believe you. Maybe we could ask that you continue this item and bring some information to us, since I've got a big old list for you next meeting. We're going to be you and Kevin Aguirre.
The cost-benefit analysis of the meter replacement.
Gina, you're on the exact same page as we were. We need to know, are you supporting these things? And at this moment, I'm not asking you to answer that, because I don't, unless you can. If you can, then that would be great.
I can't, because I don't have the information in front of me.
This council would like to know, does it make sense?
Right.
Is it a good investment? And if it is a good investment, why?
Right.
And if you believe it isn't, please share it with us and your colleagues, not only your directors from Bristol, but the other directors from the other two communities. If it doesn't make any sense, because you mentioned, I heard something about it not being able to be read. I know that they drive by my home and don't go inside and pick it up with, I don't want to say radio waves, but that's the best way to explain it. So, so I guess here's the thing. We don't have enough information to go way off target on this. So why don't we get the information, and if it is wrong, we'll go way off target on it. But let's find out what it is.
Totally
Can you
understood.
do that for us? Can you?
Happy to. And
could you also commit to us that you could ask for this not to be voted on, and if it has to be, then vote against it? Because how do you vote for something you don't have all the information?
No, I agree. A cost-benefit analysis to me is critical. And I have not been shy with my opinions on this board. I mean, I see this board looking at a looming disaster with the OPEB situation. And, that's one that I think also needs to be wrestled with.
Gina, remind everybody what OPEB is.
It's basically the post-retirement benefit plan.
Thank you.
And some time before I joined the board, the new employees were put on basically a 401k type plan as opposed to a defined benefit pension plan, but the post-retirement benefits were continued for all, and it's consuming an increasing amount of the budget.
So let's do this. I think you've given us some information talking about the general idea of and the additional connection. We had three things, and please, my colleagues, correct me if I'm wrong. It was the secondary source. We wanted some additional information on that. A white paper, I believe, was how you explained it, a couple of bullet points, page and a half or so. Right. We had a question about the state bond. I've heard varying degrees on that one. And 180 of it's gone, no, it's there. And then meters.
Right.
So is there anything else? Did I skip anything?
And the emergency connection?
Thank you. The emergency connection, which was, is it already there? And it was mentioned that all you had to do was turn it on.
Right.
So,
to the best of my knowledge, it's not, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to that point,
One moment. Go ahead.
No, I was going to make a motion to continue, but if there's
continue, and we'll allow the discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to continue this with our directors and the executive director and chairman of BCWA in attendance for September 28th, if possible.
Second.
For discussion, sir.
Okay, I don't know if the council...
Could you state your name for the
Brian
record?
Meloff from Warren.
Thank you.
I don't know if the council received this email from Badger Meters.
No, sir. I did not. I don't know if my colleagues did.
No, I have not.
I know Tony's got it, I believe.
Okay.
It was dropped off to the side. I haven't had a chance.
Well, Badger Meter sent me an email. They watched a video of the July board meeting where Kenny Booth misstated a lot of facts because he wants Neptune meters installed there. And the cost is close to $5 million. Badger Meter claims this system that we have for $300,000 can be upgraded with the meters that are failing, which are the old meters, and we'll have a state-of-the-art system good for 10 or 15 years.
So the cost of the project is $5 million, is that it?
Well, it's $2.6 million to buy the meters. Now, and if anybody watched the video, they asked Pam Marchand how much to install the meters, and she said $50 or $60 per meter. Kenny Booth got up and said, no, it's more like $70 or $80 per meter, and it could be more depending on what the bids come in as. I mean, I give Frank Sylvia credit. He asked many questions there, and he knows what's going on, you know? And my thing is, they should not vote on this meter system at all.
Yeah,
it's not needed, and I will give a copy of this to the board.
That's almost the 4.5, that's the $4.5 million you're looking for. Yeah.
Could you give it to our clerk, please? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Lou, could you send that out to us?
Sure.
Like,
Brian,
email it to us? Thank you.
Well, this council appreciates the input that we've gotten, not only from the directors, but from the public. We have a lot of things we want to go over at our next meeting, including, we'll add that to the meter discussion, because, wow. Is there anything else? We have a motion and a second to continue this to our September 28th meeting. That's not our next meeting, it's the one after that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, you have the petition of John and Gwenda McQuilkin, 126 Thames Street, request 2 curb cuts, one on Church, one on Thames Streets, is continued from July 27th. You have recommendation provided by the
Gentlemen, we can't hear up here, please. Thank you.
Tree Warden.
So I'm going to take this one. I met with the residents, John and Gwenda, along with our DPW director, Kevin McBride. We went down there a couple of days after, as you all recall, and looked at this. They have HDC approval. Diane, am I correct with that? Okay. There was some concerns about a tree that is on the Church Street. There's a proposal of 2 driveways, my apologies, one on Church, one on Thames. The one on Church was the one that had the question. There's a tree that abuts the area that they were hoping to put this new driveway in. The tree warden looked at it. You saw his recommendation. I spoke with the tree warden, and he gave a 70+% okay. There shouldn't be any issue with the tree if things are cut the way that he believes they should, and he will be involved in okaying that. I spoke with Kevin, and certainly Kevin input anything you so choose. What I'd like us to do, as we would just, when it's a curb cut and there's no question on it, we just put it in the consent agenda. In this instance, it was suggested that we not approve it for these concerns. The resident is absolutely fine. I think he's here. Yep. To follow along with whatever Kevin requires in regards to the thickness of the sidewalk and all the things required to make sure the sidewalks are in a safe place. Once they're done and they're there for a long time, he'll follow along with the tree warden in however that needs to be cut correctly. Kevin does require a project plan that is not there right now, so what I'm suggesting this council do is give it a provisional approval and refer it to Kevin and allow Kevin to give it the final approval once he sees the plan and knows that the construction will be correct.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I, as one member of the council, am very uncomfortable with that, because if you read the tree warden's report carefully, he's obviously trying to bend towards approving it if he possibly can. But beneath the surface of what he writes is a very serious concern about the health of that fine tree. So my suggestion would be to go slow on this, and my thought to Kevin is whether it seems to me there are two alternatives. One would be to just deny the idea, and the other would be to move the position of the cut away from the tree. But I'm not comfortable with us doing a conditional approval until we have further investigation and data on this, particularly from Kevin.
I can respond, and certainly I agree with your concerns about saving the tree. So in regards to moving it, it didn't seem there was any other place. It's just the way that the tree is and where the access to the lot is. So it's not because there wasn't, or there's a better way to put it or a better place to put it. It's just, it is what it is. My goal in referring it to Kevin is that it would be done correctly before it gets done. And as I said, typically we would approve these. The only reason why this is on our agenda is that there was an initial denial on it. And typically the resident would work with DPW, the tree warden, such and so forth for those approvals. But it's up to this council.
It looks like all the routes that are impacted would be worked selectively pruning. So I don't think they're going to go in and they're going to cut all the routes, Halsey. I think they're supposed to go in and just, prune
Kevin,
a couple and
I
then
might ask
work
Kevin,
that curb.
please.
That was my understanding.
Wouldn't you like to have a little time to review this carefully on the site along with the tree warden and get back to us before we take action?
Councilman, I think that we have, the chairman and myself and the McQuilkins met. They understand the requirements that the town is looking for, one of them being the concerns of the tree warden, which he's laid out in his note. I think the big concern on his part, as I read his letter to the town, was that he didn't want somebody going in there with a backhoe and just kind of ripping those roots out. He wanted them cut systematically, overseen by an arborist, and I will tell you that that's pretty much been the case that we do in most instances where we have a major tree that involves a sidewalk. We don't just rip them out there cut, and he tells them how to do it so that he can preserve the tree. And I think that's pretty well outlined in his letter, and that's his concern. Obviously, he can't guarantee the health of that tree under any conditions if it's impacted, and I understand why he's trying to put a percentage of success on that. We've also met with the McQuilkins, and they fully understand, once we had a good discussion in the field about the requirements that we have. So I don't see that as a big holdup. As the President mentioned, we're just looking for a plan, and they called today. Unfortunately, I was tied up, so my plan was to meet with them either tomorrow or the day after to go over the standards as far as the concrete sidewalk and things like that. It's really not a showstopper, Councilman Herreshoff. It's just a matter of us working together to make sure that it's successful, and I think that's what the arborist was looking for. I mean, the tree warden was looking for.
What's the likelihood of full success on this?
That's 65%.
Having the curb cut, having the driveway, and having the tree.
Well, I'm no tree arborist, but based on the letter of input that we've received, I certainly believe that it can be done successfully. I mean, again, it's anybody's understanding. As long as it's not done in a harsh manner to destroy those subsurface root system, and it's done systematically to cut them, which we have done in other instances throughout town when they've lifted panels on our sidewalks.
He says 60 to 65% in his letter.
And I don't know how to quantify that.
No, nor do I, because he had a similar,
But I think it's not a shot in the dark, Councilman Herreshoff. There's been some pretty good investigation into this, and there's been a lot of detail, and the McQuilkins are really willing to work with everybody.
The only problem I have with it is if we approve it tonight, then you've got to do it no matter what. And if we hold off, we can hear back from you about the detailed plan.
You said the next meeting's in 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
Instead of 3, so I mean, that's not too long, especially with Labor Day coming up.
You addressed my concern is we have done this in the past, and if it's done right, I have full faith in Mr. Saraceno, our new tree warden, and your assessment. I guess my other question, other than the tree and the curb cut, is the understanding of the sidewalk involved, too. If any mishaps occur during the project, what would happen then?
Well, it's pretty standard construction, Councilman. I mean, obviously you have to shut the sidewalk off. What I wanted done, and I will follow through with, is when they impact the sidewalk is not constructed to withstand driveway loads. So they have to cut out a segment of the sidewalk, and they need to do that at the construction joints, take those panels out, and then when they replace it with a driveway, that driveway needs to be reinforced. So that when they drive in and out, that sidewalk doesn't crack and create a trip hazard in the future. It can take the driving load for the residents. And then they have to blend back in that sidewalk that was impacted. with the standard sidewalk treatment. So
Okay.
there's a little bit of detail involved here, and that's why I didn't chop on it initially. And once we sat and walked with them, went over the site, they fully understood what we were looking for. And I've had no issues working with them at all.
And they've accepted the costs of the specialized arborist and
Exactly.
the detail tree.
I mean, if they didn't, obviously that would be a showstopper for the
Right.
town.
Yeah, good.
Sue. I'll stop. What's this council's pleasure?
Make a motion to move with the conditions provided, as you stated, along with the department and administration and recommendations of the tree warden.
I'll second the approval.
And if I could just add one thing during this last piece, is that we'll be overseeing that. We'll look at it every day as they do it. And I know that they'll come to us with any questions because they have already. So that it's not like we're trying to get it done and get it quick before anybody notices.
Well, it's also stated, the agreement from the residents that, they'll oblige to anything that is needed, just in case something does happen. So,
I think two really important things. Number one, this is normal course of action in the sense of you would oversee any sidewalk project anyway. Anything that's done and moves forward, you have to look over. The tree warden would normally do what exactly he's doing right now. And again, the reason why we're discussing it is that it was an initial no. So there was a potential of a yes and never coming in front of us. But I also want to bring up a point is that Councilman Herreshoff shares all of our concern, which is we love trees in Bristol. And I know the resident does too. And if, this is a question about it, because nothing is 100%, that being said, we've spent an hour and a half talking about trees. I remember a couple of meetings that we did that. So we care about them. So I think I share his concern, but I believe it can be done correctly. So we have a motion and a second to refer and approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
We have one opposed.
Okay, the next item is regarding Councilman Stewart raised this during his prerogative, I believe at the last meeting, the unused or seldom used RIPTA bus boxes.
thank you. So after many years, we're going back a good 3 to 4 years since that was proposed, that RIPTA came in front of us and we had the pilot program, and then we came back and removed some boxes. Parking is essential in our downtown area for our businesses. It has been very vocal. So those bus boxes did take up some parking spaces. I presented this the last meeting, referred to the Community Development Administration to have conversation with RIPTA. My colleagues agreed that they have the same assessment, like many of us here in town, that the buses do not go fully into the bus box. They just pull in the front, and they still stop the traffic, and it just doesn't serve the purpose of what they were trying to do of putting the bus, that we gave ample time for them to be trained, and we were promised that they were going to be trained to go into the boxes fully with the bus. And many conversations going back with my colleagues conveyed to RIPTA saying that if this isn't a success, that we will be revisiting this for our town going forward. So those conversations were last meeting. Diane and Ed Tanner looked into it. Diane, if you could just comment, because I know looking back when we proposed the initial, adding more spaces and having this conversation with RIPTA, one of the main concerns looking back on the issue was the handicap accessibility to the bus. Was their concern with this new initiative. So, Diane, if you could just...
Right, so we did reach out to RIPTA. We have not gotten a reply from our messages, but I do remember what you have pointed out, and I've seen it myself, where if there is a handicapped rider on the bus and they're in that middle doorway, they do pull up to the curb with the full length of the bus. It's not often, but it does happen occasionally when they have to use it. But I have also seen them nose in, as you said.
Every time.
So we are going to ask that we revisit it with them, and we're just waiting for their response to us. And we were successful in eliminating the other bus stops, so we have fewer stops.
Yes.
Which eliminated the boxes.
Yeah. And continue the conversation, just like a lot of agencies, the frustration of getting in touch with agencies through colleagues through government, as Diane just specified, of being unsuccessful. But even if we can have the option, if they are just going to go in frontward like they are and still have the accessibility to any doors handicapped, and actually just even add a space to each box, if they can get away with doing that, that's one space more of parking on each box that we can accomplish downtown, if that's feasible. So again, if you can, another continuation to, this is going to be a repeat meeting on
Maybe that's the
September
7th. Maybe we can do another
can we do it
2
for
weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes.
We could get off the 28th, and we could do
We
it
got a
2
lot
weeks.
of stuff on the 28th.
Yes.
So we'll continue this, unless my colleagues have any more questions, to September 7th?
Is it the
Is that the date? Yes.
I heard that as a motion. Is there a second?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also from Councilman Stewart regarding an update on possible high-speed ferry stop in Bristol.
Last meeting, with the initiation, a reinitiation since 2008 when it stopped, the high-speed ferry from Providence to Newport, which was very successful in its running, and with some additional money that was funded to the DOT, they had put out to bid for this summer with Sea-Trek from New Jersey, a partnership to run a high-speed ferry from Providence to Newport. So far has been very successful for Newport, the tourism, and I just suggested that as a town and all of us should have a conversation with the DOT and Ripter and Sea-Trek. And since then, our harbor master, who couldn't be here tonight, he's feeling under the weather. He has had conversations with the captain, and we're trying to orchestrate having a meeting with the DOT, Ripter, Sea-Trek, and the administration, and all of us to sit down for next year, because at this juncture, this is a pilot program for funding, so they're going to need more funds to continue this, as was suggested, part of the program. And I think more municipalities involved, like they suggested, to come to them to see we're in a midpoint in Bristol, and we have a lovely downtown, and we try to help our businesses with tourism. So I think through the State Rhode Island Tourism Board and all the people, we need to collaborate to sit down and see if we can actually have a stop here in Bristol, and what's important is where that stop's going to be. I know my colleagues had mentioned different locations such as Colt Park, but I think to have it come into the Bristol Harbor where people can actually spend the day or, come to our businesses would be really great. And the people that go to Newport now, some of them are from Massachusetts and they don't own boats. So they probably feel that, well, why don't we just take a boat ride and enjoy the lovely bay and then, park our car in Providence and then go down to Newport. This also addresses how many motorists are going to be off the road. So with that, to my surprise, is the initial boat that is being used, the 149 passenger, was actually built right here in Bristol by Merrifield and Roberts. So that's a little piece of news for us to give us a little kudos that that's the boat that's being used. And so I would like to continue this because the harbor master actually has to get in touch with certain agencies, and then we can put a meeting together to, be proactive, and it might take over the fall to come up with where the funding is going to be for next year for this program. And I think with more people involved, we can ascertain different grants or lean on federal state funding for this cause because of its success this year. So I'll make a motion to continue this to September 7th.
I second the motion, and I'd like to remark that I agree with you totally that it should come right into downtown. And the way they could do it, they could come from Providence down to around Papsquash Point and come right into a pier that we'll pick out. And then when they leave, they can go down the other passage between Hog Island and the Bristol Ferry, which would give the Providence people a view of more of the best part of Bristol and the Mount Little Bridge, and then on down to Newport. And even if it wasn't every day, if it was certain days of the week, I think it would be a wonderful thing. And I agree with you, Eddie. Let's set it up now so it's possible to prove it by next summer.
Excellent, proactive. So we have a motion to continue to our next meeting, which is September 7th. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is also from Councilman Stewart regarding stop signs at the intersection of Belvedere and Sunrise Drives.
This is my last one. So I would like to thank the Department of Public Works and the director for addressing a situation that was very hazardous on the corner of Sunrise and Belvedere, where there was overgrown shrubs that were kind of going into the roadway, and the visual visibility for motorists to come around that corner. This is a neighborhood filled with children. They went the next day to trim it back within the town rights of what we had to do to give a better visual clearance around that corner. While doing so, going down to Belvedere, which connects to Sunrise, is the first street going down Anawamsket with all the other parallel roads that meet Sunrise, and each of those roads have stop signs. Belvedere is the only one down in that neighborhood that doesn't have a stop sign, so that can actually be treated as people just not stopping and using it as a curve. And like I said, there's children in that neighborhood. I believe there should be a stop sign there going towards west on Sunrise and going north on Belvedere. I would like to suggest that we give this to the sign committee to give their recommendation, and I would like to say that I believe it should be approved because of its nature and the safety aspects, and report back to this council on September 7th.
I just have a quick question. Were you looking for stop signs at two locations at that intersection, one on Belvedere and one on Sunrise?
Comparable to, and you can help me here, at the end of King Philip and Sunrise, I believe it's a three-way stop, right?
I believe so.
So when the other parallel streets go, people just stop at Sunrise, and the right-of-way is for the people on Sunrise. I believe when it ends at Belvedere, they should stop.
I agree.
Because then that person will just go right into the other line of traffic, even though they're stopping. And
yeah, I just hadn't looked at the Sunrise westbound to Belvedere southbound movement. That's why I asked.
I have full faith in the committee and yourself that you would assess it accordingly on all the rules and regulations, how you treat that intersection.
No problem.
So that was a motion to continue that to our September 7th meeting to get, actually it was referred to the sign committee and come back with a recommendation on our September 7th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item I-4, is from Councilman Sweeney regarding recycling.
I just had 3 questions. What lies ahead on July 1st, 2017? The tonnage rate for Bristol is going to jump from 32 to possibly 57 or up to $65 a ton. So we've got less than a year to really tweak these ordinances and make sure we're not spending a lot of tax dollars on our trash removal. So I have 3 questions, and one has to do with recycling at public events, which we currently have on the ordinance, but I've noticed at a lot of different public events we haven't really been following that ordinance well. I mean, I know we're in the first year of it, and I'm going to be talking with Walter Burke on that in regards to the permit and trying to get that enforced a little bit better. So we're going to be working on that. I just wanted to bring you guys all up to speed on that, so I'll give you an update on that. Number 2, getting that ordinance on the website. Tony took care of that, so that's all set. And my last question had to do with the commercial waste. And Kevin, I just wanted to ask a couple questions just to find out how it's going. I know what we're doing now is we're separating it out. And I just wanted to know what we're doing on that list, how we're going to handle that increase in tonnage cost coming down the road, and how we're going to handle commercial.
Right now, as you know, the new ordinance that took effect in January required us to set up a commercial account with Rhode Island Resource Recovery. Once we get over the hump of the no bin, no barrel, we established that commercial account with Resource Recovery, which required an amendment to our signed agreement with them. That's in place.
Great.
Right now, the commercial waste is tracked a couple of ways. On Tuesdays, we pick up commercial sites and we weigh in the trash. so that we know what the trash tonnage is, doing that on Tuesday. And also, when our private accounts come in through the transfer station to dispose of material, whether it be building material, whatever, they are logged in as a commercial, as part of the town, and they're tracked as well. So we report the commercial tonnages to resource recovery at the end of every month, and that tonnage is taken off of the residential tonnage that goes against our cap. That comes off the top. We are billed at the higher rate at $57 a ton for the commercial waste, and the residential waste remains at $34. The overall intent is to hopefully not go over the cap for residential tonnage and be billed at a higher rate. How that's going to balance out dollar-wise, I would say we're not going to know till next year, but we're tracking that in accordance with the requirements of the ordinance that took place in January.
All right, great. And just what I'm concerned about is just certain commercial having a large amount of waste, and they're, you know what I mean, and we're getting hit by that. And I'm just really nervous about the upcoming change that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest with you, I've been watching that since I came on board. Once we got notification that it was going to almost double the tipping fees.
Wow.
We've also, the council approved an increase in fees. The rate that the commercial folks pay going into the transfer station is higher than our residential rate, which makes sense. So we're trying to defer some of the costs by doing it that way as well. Excuse me, so that we're also doing that to collect a more fee on the commercial side.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we're striking a balance with the taxpayer and the commercial.
It's a difference in fee from the residential. You know, didn't seem to make sense to have the residents pay the same amount as somebody dispose of waste on the commercial side.
Right.
And the commercial sticker, it costs more for an annual basis as opposed to the residential sticker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are we looking into possibly limiting the amount of trash we do pick up in regards to not allowing 10 containers, maybe 5, asking them to recycle more, and that, so we're kind of moving, because we know that it costs nothing to recycle. So the more we're recycling, it helps us on that. Just trying to save as much tax dollars.
Right, understandable. We don't pay for the disposal at the MRF for the recycled material. It's just, discharged there. We pay for the trash, whether it be commercial or residential. You asked a question about, are we looking at limiting that? I think that's a discussion item that we might want to have in the future as we look down the road towards the tipping fee increases, because right now, you certainly can take a look at different sites throughout town, and you can see that we may be pressing the limit on how much is being disposed of by each individual location. And I don't have those particulars, but there are notable locations that dispose of an incredible amount of trash.
Right.
I think that's the best way for me to put it at this point. But we are tracking everything that the ordinance had required us to do.
Good.
And Tuesday is our commercial pickup day for both recycling and trash. And so far, so good. Our list gets bigger and bigger on the commercial side of things. We have a 3rd trash truck and a 3rd recycle truck on Tuesday to collect that.
I'll just open it up to any of my colleagues. Do they have any questions? Anybody?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing
these items
up.
Motion to receive and file.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is a request for executive session, and I'm sure the council will want to take that up at the conclusion of the public agenda. The next item is from the town administrator regarding the LED light conversions.
Well, we have some good news. We're ready to convert the lights, pending. As you've already witnessed, we've had some sampling lighting on Church Street, 2 types of lights there, and I believe the council's had the opportunity to view those, and for us to come up with a decision as to which way we would go. Would we go with Acuity or Leotech? That being said, our partner, Town of Barrington, has already ordered theirs, so we right in the wings, ready to go, pending on tonight's decision. But a letter has been drafted and will be in the mail as of tomorrow.
Tony, what's the capital outlay for changing it all over town?
I'm sorry?
What is the capital cost of changing it all over town?
I'll have Julie give you that number.
there's a lot of components like incentives and discounts and things, and so our approximation is about $450,000 total conversion.
And where will that fund come
Capital
from?
reserve funds.
And there's enough there?
Yes, yeah. Was in the plan, part of the council's earlier decisions.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And
Savings, I think-
you've got some pretty strong estimates of the yearly savings, haven't you?
Yes, we do. Well, if we start with the maintenance contract, we were paying $177,000 to National Grid. Currently, we're paying $40,000 for the maintenance contract of the current Cobra lights. However, with the conversion, the maintenance contract will drop to $10,000, which would be an additional $30,000 savings. So if you add that to the 133, we're talking $163,000 savings, not counting the consumption because of the conversion to LED. There'll be a greater conversion
3 years,
savings.
that's $480,000, so.
Correct.
Looks like a good deal.
Yeah, their estimates on the electricity savings, it looks like about $55,000. So that plus the maintenance, it's going to be a
It's a
good
phenomenal
payback,
thing
and it's
to
a
do.
great thing to do. Yep.
Absolutely.
We're excited.
Well, I move that we approve the plan and ask for implementation at the earliest opportunity.
One of the goals that we were hoping to accomplish tonight, too, was to pick the particular style of light. And there, as the administrator pointed out, on Church Street, down towards Thames Street on the left-hand side, or the south side, there was two kinds of lights. There was a single-looking light bulb, and then there was one that is a flat panel LED. I couldn't tell you how big it was, maybe as big as my iPad, with a multitude of LED lights on it. For myself, that was the one that I preferred. I like the way that the light kind of covered the ground without being I found that the single light was very harsh. And I know there's ways that you can adjust that. And I also understood from talking with Kevin and actually a few of you that the flat panel one actually had a great reputation, maybe greater than the other. So
Yes, Councilman, the LED that you're referring to is the Leotech model, just so you can understand the difference between the two. The other one is Acuity, which is the single diode type bulb. It's not really, you know what I mean? So, and it's harsh on the eyes, as you said. The way you can tell it apart, once you look at that street light, the one with multiple diodes in it is the Leotech.
Okay, that's the one I preferred, and that was our goal this evening, was to pick one of those so we can move forward and get those ordered. Correct? 8 weeks out is once we hit the go button. There's another.
I'll call the gentleman tomorrow. He wants to place that order. They've already dropped the trailer for the installation today, so they need to get that order in because it's like a 6 to 8 week lead time, and then they start the installation, which they have 120 days to install.
So this motion.
We're really trying to get them all done by the end of December.
So this motion should include a choice of so the Leotech was the flat one, and I don't know if anybody had a preference for the other one. Does anyone have a preference for the other
Well,
one?
my only question is this. The flat one looks good and illuminates very well, but that has how many bulbs in it? Like a
Well,
40 or 50?
they're light emitting diodes is what they are. They're LED, and so it's one unit. You know, so if that goes down, it's the 1 unit replacement.
Just as it would be
But
for
it
the
has like
single
a
bulb.
service life of about 20 years.
Yeah, my only question is this. If you have all the different diodes in there, if one of them fails, it's not going to make any difference to the illumination, but it'd be a shame to have them all over town looking like they're all defective by 1 or 2 diodes off, whereas the other unit with a single big bulb, it's either on or off.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think the difference is when it goes down, we have that maintenance contract where it will be replaced, and they're looking at less than a 1% failure rate in 15 to 20 years.
So what you're saying is that in answer to my suggested problem, that
One diode. It's not like Christmas
you
tree
would
lights,
change the
right?
whole thing.
Yeah, it shouldn't affect the whole thing.
Or they some half stay on and half don't.
I mean, I don't know the technical aspects of how they're wired and manufactured. What I think
not in the middle of the street.
should be looked at for decision is the light itself, the light that it gives you. Is that what we're looking for so that we go town-wide with it? And then we execute from there. Keep in mind, we still have a maintenance contract because we own them. It's just like the lights we have now. I'm in contact with them every day on lights going down, and they turn them around pretty quickly. So,
And the bulb's supposed to last, what, 10 years?
20.
20?
yeah, I think they were saying 15 to 20 years
15.
with a less than 1% failure rate, so I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great.
All of the feedback so far that Tony has received has been for the Leotech, and as you said, they have a good reputation in speaking with the company we're working with. And we want to jump on it because there's other communities that are starting to line up for these incentives, so we want to be sure that we don't miss the opportunity for the big dollar savings.
Gosh, no.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, it's the lead time for the order, too. If we get behind the power curve, it'll take even longer for us to get the delivery.
Yeah, when I walked down the street, I really liked the Leotech as well. The brightness was nice and clean and controlled. It was right over the street. Perfect. It was
Well, I'll be the one.
Very nice.
I'll be the one to make the motion.
Go ahead.
That my motion is
Go for
going to
it.
be for the Leotech and move forward with this project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent, thank you.
Okay, get that done.
Okay, the next item is a bid. This is bid number 849, boiler replacement at Byfield School. We have two proposals. The first from Atlantic Power Services of Seekonk, Massachusetts, in the bid amount of $19,348, and the second from Sunshine Fuels and Energy of Bristol in the bid amount of $25,690.
I move this to be referred to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town. And I'd just like to make the remark that I'm very glad to see a bid that's
Mine is in the
around $20,000 and not in the millions.
It's nice to see a five-figure as opposed to a six-figure number,
Yeah,
isn't it? Or seven.
Nice change. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to refer to the administrator to act in the best interest of the town. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is K1. This is the periodic report coming from Alan Klepper, the Barrington Director of the Bristol County Water Authority.
Make a motion.
File.
Yeah, second.
There's a motion to receive and file and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And similarly, the Bristol County Water Authority's fiscal year 2016 annual report.
Motion to receive and file?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is also an executive session matter, but I believe the solicitor says that we are not going to need that one, or is that?
I'll give him a quick update.
Quick update, okay. And then we have the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
I'm sure I'm going to forget something, but I only had one thing on here. We attended we met with some seniors at the Benjamin Church, had a lot of dialogue with them, and although it was a wonderful experience, they actually brought up a couple of concerns. One in particular that we all heard was the Fales Road access, getting in, getting out of there. And we've all heard this before. If you live on that road or you visit someone on that road, it's a challenging place to get in and out. And I know there's other development that's potentially happening over there, but my focus was solely on that. And we all heard the same thing, which was it's very difficult, and you kind of have to, well, it takes a long time to get in and out of there. So what I'd like to suggest to this council is that we look into commissioning a study, a traffic study, and this traffic study actually was a suggestion of Ed Tanner in our community development, and I think it's a wonderful idea that we take a look at, is that area being utilized to the best of its ability? As we all know, there's a fire station right across the street. There's a set of lights that are there. Obviously, we have the Gooding Avenue lights. If anybody's ever tried to cross the street from Hope Street as Gooding Avenue is trying to go left, that was also pointed out to us a few times. It's a dangerous area. So is there something more that can happen with the lights? So I'd like this council to consider commissioning, and obviously we can't do it this evening. We could have it on our next agenda to vote on it, to commission a traffic study to take a look at that. There's a lot of homes that feed from that road, and there's only a couple places to come out, including Wayland, and Wayland puts you into where everybody queues up to stop. And then Mulberry is also, it's not as difficult, but it's not very easy to get through, and then you're driving through back roads to get there. So what I'd like us to do is look at a traffic study, see what we could do differently. For example, should there be a second set of lights over there that works in tandem with Gooding Ave light? I don't mean to slow down the process. I want to make it nicer so you can get in, get out, and not dart out of there, but take your time and do it safely. We've all been there when traffic is tough, particularly Sunday afternoons in the summertime, right, when it gets really difficult from Cold State Park and just beach traffic. So I don't know what my colleagues' thoughts are on that, but I'm going to put it on the next agenda, and we can certainly discuss it a little bit more.
Great.
I don't believe the cost would be that great, and I believe the benefit would be very, very big. So that's all I had.
Mr. Sweeney.
Well, I wanted to wish the chairman a happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank
happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Last
I'm
week,
85.
right?
I look good for my 85.
You're holding up well. Holding up very well. And I want to thank Ed for putting the solar power workshop on. It was very, very beneficial. I found that it was a great workshop. I definitely want to, I clearly support it, and I want to make sure we want to see this through. I know it's going to be a long process, but the benefits to the town, for one, clean energy, and the return to the economic benefit to the town will be great. So anyway, I just want to say that it was definitely something we need to keep a pulse on. The Wood Street Pride this past Sunday, I thought was great. It was great to see the community acquainted with the industrial park. There was a live band there. I was walking around. There was a lot of small businesses. It was just fun because it's a great little area, different part of town, and I just like to see. It's nice to see life there. And I just wanted to make sure you mark your calendar on the Fireman's fundraiser at Independence Park. It's coming up from 1 to 5, and I believe that is on Sunday, right? Saturday.
It's Saturday? Oh, good. Can you get tickets at the door, or do you have to get them in advance?
No, you can get them at the door as well.
Yeah.
Saturday. Okay.
Yes. That's going to be a great event.
It's going to be a great
Yeah,
event.
I'm looking forward to that.
And I want to just commend Marine One for saving those stranded men out there in the boat that sank. I was reading on the Phoenix this morning. A boat went down last night, and Marine One responded. I think Drew Lombardo and Angus Davis heard the call, and anyway, we responded. Everybody was safe and sound, and it's just glad everything worked out. So, but that's it. Have a great night.
Ms. Perella.
Okay, well, a couple of things. Well, first of all, speaking of, we spent a little bit of time this evening on trash, and so I will pass those out if you don't mind. So I was down the Cape last week, and I'm sitting looking at this thing that looks like a mailbox, a little bit bigger, more like the kind of box that they keep the mail in.
Don't put your mail in here, though.
No, don't put your mail in. And it turns out it's a solar-powered trash compactor. The Big Belly, yeah. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't heard much about this in the past, because I think this is a great potential solution. I did not get any prices. I went through, and what you have here is just various websites, just printing out. I apologize, some of my colored copies weren't, my ink must have not been going very well. There's the contact for Big Belly right in here, so it's whoever's going to get this is going to ask Tony to get back to us on it. And my thought about this and why I was so interested in it, it takes 5 to 8 times the amount of trash. And when the trash, when it gets to a certain level, it hits a sensor, and then it will compact it down, and it's all solar powered. And
awesome.
You don't have to have rain, you don't have to have sun every day. And there are a couple of places in town that no matter how hard we try, in the summer especially, it is just a disaster. And I'll tell you, the main one is down in Independence Park by the, across from the ice cream place, bottom of, by Franklin Street. One Sunday I went by there was, both barrels were loaded up, overflowing, and somebody had tacked up a trash bag on one of the poles, and that was almost overflowing. And then the other place, of course, is right downtown by the bank. Now, I did notice that there is a mailbox there, but if we go with, even if we just piloted one, I think that the downtown, the Thames Street area would be a terrific location for it. And so it's made by this company, Big Belly, which is actually just in, I believe, Needham, Massachusetts. I put the one from Waste Management first, just because it shows you the best picture. And you can also get your little, I don't know what you call them, covers or whatever you call it, that can give a message from our town. So the ones I saw were just pretty plain. But I think it would be worth looking into, so I'm going to give this to Lou. And Tony, I had one for you. There should be an extra one down there
I just
somewhere?
pulled it up. Here you go.
Okay, thank you. And if you could get back to us with the cost of these and how they, if they're leased or how they are, like nowhere, everywhere I look, there's just no prices. It's like call for information, so.
That must mean they're really
I don't think it's a
expensive.
good sign. No, I don't think it's a good sign, but,
You have to
you
ask.
know. But I do think, like, we try so hard to pride ourselves on, you know, this beautiful town, and everybody comes downtown, and let's bring tourists, and the trash is overflowing on a weekend, you know, and we really have to, like, do something, particularly in some of the, like, the Thames Street location, I think. So that is the main thing, and the other, and I do have a larger,
What town was this?
I saw it in Provincetown.
Provincetown.
Down there, yeah. But if you go through it, there's a whole bunch of, like, communities that have them. I mean, there's like thousands and thousands and
Up in
thousands of
Boston,
them.
yeah, yeah.
In whole cities. I mean, there's
Yeah.
like Philadelphia or somebody's got like thousands of them, from what I glanced at in looking through this. I just pulled out like bits and pieces of things. So I wanted to just, I have a bigger flyer, but I forgot to bring that one. But I just wanted to let people know that coming up, it's not for another month, September 25th, but the Good Old Days event will be at Ferry Farm in Warren. And the proceeds of this event go to the East Bay Autism Project, which we support, and we helped get it off the ground. And it provides local resources to families with autistic children so that they can, you know, the kids can get together, and parent support groups locally. This last year was the first year for the Good Old Days. I think they had a chicken barbecue at the time. They have bands. They have cow plop contests. You can buy like little pieces of land and all kinds of fun events that go on. This year it's a clam bake. The clam bake will start at 2 o'clock, and it will be, and the tickets for the clam bake are $30. But everything else that day, if you just want to go there, is free. And there'll be other things you can just buy from vendors and so forth.
Hey, Mary, I also found out they have those trash containers in Warren.
Oh, really?
How
I've
about
never
that?
seen
So
one in Warren. I
right
didn't
across.
even see that
And
there.
Darrington does too.
They do? Wow. And we've never heard of them here. I have to go find them. That's it? Thank you, yeah.
Mr. Stewart.
So I applaud this, Mary. Actually, my wife and I, down the Cape, and
Used it?
well, no, you know, we're all about recycling and being green in Bristol, and she said, why don't you have these in Bristol? And I don't want to advertise this too much, but it might come up. I believe a pilot program of having a certain amount due to cost, but to go town-wide, sorry, Chief, I'm going to say it, we have the 4th of July here in Bristol, and rubbish actually has an impact on
Right.
Chief's perspective on what we do come 4th of July. But not to mention that I think we can put them strategically in
I'm
the
not
places.
looking for town-wide, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I applaud it. But that was my, that you could tell you're a real Bristolian when, you know, right away I'm like, no, we got 4th of July. You know, so I applaud this, Mary.
Well, you
It's
may
very
be
good.
able to just move it out the day of the 4th, because if you have like 2 or 3 of them, but in the meantime, we have, you know, 3 months of trash overflowing that's sitting there on weekends with,
And-
it looks like a mess. You can get by the way, you can get, this is the single one, but if you look through the big belly ones, you can get the trash and the recyclable one side by side. I don't know if you want to take up that much space, but
Yeah.
I've never seen this in Warren. You have to tell me where. I've never even noticed it.
And to the chair's point, with the solar project, it's all about us being a team, because this has been ongoing. It's just to get it going with all the initiatives that we have been doing as a town. And I'd like to congratulate Chairman Sweeney, because he was appointed to the Rhode Island Climate Change Advisory Board. So another great representative from the town of Bristol with that initiative. So congratulations on that appointment. Also, congratulations to 2 more Eagle Scouts. Myself and Tony attended the Eagle Scout ceremony for Colin Tatry and Daniel Gabriel, so we just keep adding more Eagle Scouts here in Bristol, so we commend Troop 6. Also, it's the end of the summer and the beginning of a new school year, so...
Yeah, it's not there yet. So.
Labor Day's coming, and Labor Day is the big event here in Bristol, so we're always ready and welcome and open our doors once again for a celebration that Sunday for the concert. So we welcome everybody, and have a safe safe night. So with that, safety to all the school children, and be careful and mindful of the buses. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, everyone looking at home, and thank you, Mike Davis, and have a good night.
I forgot something. To answer Mary's question, where is it? It's right next to Delecta's in Warren.
I must have
Yep.
noticed it.
The other thing is that Bristol's so cool, we now have butlers on every corner. And if you're saying, what the heck am I talking about? If you look in the corners, we actually have a place for you, if you smoke, to put cigarette butts now. So if you go to the end here, if you want to see what it looks like, on the beginning of Court Street, on the sign, I don't know which sign it is, but you can't miss it, very clearly marked place to put, and we have 10 of them. Tony's telling me that we have 10 of them. But you'll see them around, which is another way that we want to keep Bristol clean. And it's a safe and way that, if they go in there, they're made out of stainless steel. So, and they're bolted right to the sign, so they're not going anywhere. They're clearly marked. And I commend Diane, and who else? Was it Ed? Ed and DPW for installing. So Ed Tanner, Diane of the idea, and DPW for installing them and doing a great job on that. Thank you.
Mr. Harrisoff.
Well, I have 3 items. For about 25 years, there's been a annual regatta of classic sailboats sponsored by the Harrisoff Marine Museum. And we're going to do that again this year, on this coming Saturday, and there'll be an extra race on Sunday. But it's a really appropriate occasion for Bristol because a lot of these boats were built here, and this year we're going to feature the Harrisoff-built New York Yacht Club 40-footers, which was a class started by building of 10 of those boats here in Bristol in 1916. And we're going to have on site racing 2 of them that were built 10 years later in 1926.
No kidding.
2 very well restored yachts that are 90 years old and sailing today. So I recommend that anybody on the TV watching us come down and see the races. They'll start out in the harbor near Papa's Point, but they'll finish in the early afternoon or mid-afternoon right at the Harrisoff Marine Museum Pier, and a good place to watch it and enjoy a real Bristol event of sailing. This is going to be this coming Saturday.
What time?
And the races start about noontime, and there are various classes, big and small boats, and they finish in the middle of the afternoon.
So you can have some food at Independence Park, support our fire department, go watch some sailing in the afternoon, and come back around again. Wonderful.
Well, I think that's right. You can do both things and have a really banner Saturday, hopefully with continuation of the great weather. Now, on a negative side, I am disappointed to see that the downtown streets are getting to be littered again. After we got that quite impressive vacuum, it looked great down there. But I'm wondering, Mr. Administrator, why we don't use that more often. Because this morning, walking around, between the Dunkin' Donuts and the post office down there's all kinds of litter and trouble. And I think that we figured out how to correct that, but we've got to work at it more. So I hope we can do that. Well, now the final thing I'd like to do is a suggestion. The council and administration have been talking about the fact that the town a few years ago, bought property from Mr. Azevedo, which is north of the Thames Street Fire Station. And part of that is dealing with the structures there, which we'll probably talk about at a different time than this. But I think it'd be very good if the viewers would try to go down there and observe the property there that goes out to the water. It's a wonderful property. And some people say, well, we've got a lot of parks. Why do we need another one? I used to hear that. But I think we could have another one. And I'd like to see us, among other things, spend a very small amount of money clearing out that property. It now has a lot of stuff that is serving the good activities of the Harbor Department, but I've talked to Greg, and he has a very good alternative space for his wood and floats and work. And for very little money, we could landscape that, put a few barriers on the edge, put in some good grass this fall and all. And I'd like to make the suggestion that we name it Freedom Park. We already have Independence Park. This is a town that believes in the early culture of the United States of America. And there's nothing more important than our freedom. And I think it would be great for us to have Freedom Park on our waterfront. I hope that council might take that under consideration. Thank you.
Town Administrator, agenda items?
As Councilman Stewart already alluded to, we have the last night concert coming up September 4th with the rain date September 5th. So come down and join us at Independence Park. Welcome back to Rajum students. They also coming back this weekend. They'll be with us arriving on Friday and Saturday, so we'll see many of our students returning again for Rajum's University. In fact, you may see, I believe there's 4 banners that have been posted welcoming the students back to town as well. With that being said, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Motion would be to convene into executive session pursuant to 42465A5 regarding the Lisa Real property, Gladding Azevedo property in Wally School, and 42465A2 litigation, Bristol Warren Regional School District.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Anybody in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.